mama to allow me just to run around all night long. Oh, long. Well, my mother allowed me just to run around all night long. I didn't care what she didn't allow. I would slip out in a house. When I first came to town, people, I was walking down Beale Street. Get everybody talking about Club the Least. I decided I'd drop in there that night. When I got there, I said, yeah, people, they were really having a ball. Jump, Cholo. One night I was laying down. I overheard Mama and Papa talking. They thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. I heard Papa tell Mama, let that boy boogie woogie, because it's in him, and his show got to come out. And I felt so good. Went on boogie just the same. Ho, ho.
slip me a kiss. Turn your lights down low, I just can't resist. From a teeny weeny bit, just a teeny weeny bit of your love. You forever, not just for peace of mind. Please say you never leave me, not till the end of time. From just a teeny weeny bit, just a teeny weeny bit of your love. A teeny weeny bit of your love.
Tell Automatic Slim, you tell Razor Toting Jim, you tell Butcher Knife Toting Nanny, you tell Fast Talking Fanny. We gonna pitch a ball down to that Union Hall. We gonna romp and tromp till midnight. We gonna fuss.
Good morning, Shirley Foxwell, City Clerk. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you. I would like to recognize City Council Attorney Marty Shelby for a few comments.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good morning, members of council, members of the public. Martin Shelby, the City Council Attorney. Today is Thursday, May 6th of 2021, and we're here at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard. And this meeting is being held during the continuing state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's being conducted, as you heard, with a live in-person quorum of the City Council present in City Council chambers. However, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, members of the public are encouraged to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as Communications Media Technology, or CMT. These meetings are being held in accordance with the emergency rules of procedure as adopted by resolution number 2020-225 and as amended by resolution 2020-490 and 2021-241. The public and the citizens of the city of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and live streaming on the internet at tampa.gov/livestream. Now, members of the public are able to participate virtually by alternative methods, including sending written comments by the internet or web, by email, by U.S. mail, and also speaking remotely during public comment with the use of CMT. And that requires pre-registration. All of this information is available for the public and the instructions at tampa.gov/city council, one word. Also, members of the public are able to participate using CMT, which is available at Old City Hall. They have that option, and that is made available during the meeting on the second floor of Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard, on the second floor. And please note that use of masks and social distancing inside the building are encouraged. Now, to participate remotely in land use hearings and alcoholic beverage hearings, there are second readings on the agenda for today. Pre-registration has been required, and again, that information is available to the public, as I said, on the City Council's website. Obviously, they can come in person and participate on the second floor during the public hearing. Comments specific to a public hearing will be heard when it appears on the agenda, and the public comments received timely by mail, email, web, or via CMT will be afforded equal consideration as if the public comments have been made in person. One final comment, please, to the public. If you are participating through the GoToMeeting platform, please be reminded that the chat function is not to be used by the public to communicate with City Council members. Thank you for your cooperation. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Good morning again, Honorable Council. Shirley Fox Snow, City Clerk for the City of Tampa. We will now conduct the election for Chairman and Chairman Pro Tem for the Tampa City Council. Here are the election guidelines. The election of the Chairman will be held first. Nominations do not require a second. Please wait to be recognized before nominating a candidate. I will open the nominations and close them after all nominations have been made. Votes will be counted by raising the hand. The vote will be taken in the order of the nomination, beginning with the first name nominated. The vote will cease as soon as there is a majority, which requires 4 votes. Having said that, nominations are now in order for chairman.
Ms. Shirley.
Oh,
Ms. Shirley, I nominate Orlando Goods as chair of Tampa City Council.
Mr. Goods has been nominated. Is there another nomination? All in favor of, we will close it on Mr. Goods. All in favor of Mr. Goods, please raise your hand. Okay, congratulations. Would you like to say a few words?
Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, Martin Shelby speaking to you from behind your back. I apologize. If you wish, for the purposes of this, a roll call vote, I would appreciate, this being the circumstances during the pandemic, if you don't mind. And then you can announce the vote, please.
Okay.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
We have a unanimous vote.
Great, thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
Well, yes, Ms. Fox Knowles, again, you've done a great job working with me these past 2 years, going on my 3rd year, and I appreciate your office and the work you and your ladies and men have done in your office. Again, to my colleagues, thank you for giving me this honor. Wasn't expecting this. I lead every day, so being the chairman is not a big deal to me, to be honest with you, but I'm glad that my colleagues found it. They like me to try to keep the momentum going, like my good friend Mr. Guido Maniscalco. He's done a great job this past year doing the COVID. He showed great leadership to this council, and I just want to make sure we continue to do that and have a cohesive group with this council and the administration. So thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Nominations are now in order for Chairman Pro Tem. Is there a nomination? Yes.
Councilmember Dingfelder.
Mr. Dingfelder has been nominated. Is there another nomination?
I'll put in Councilman Joseph.
Oh, Mr. Citro has been nominated. Is there another nomination? Okay, we will close it on Mr. Dingfelder and Mr. Citro. All in favor of Mr. Dingfelder?
Roll call.
Oh, you roll call, okay.
For Dingfelder, Vieira.
No, respectfully to my friend, no.
Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
We will make it unanimous with the exception of 1 vote yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Yes. That's funny. Yes. Glad to see yes.
Okay. Mr. Dingfelder, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm humbled by your vote, and I appreciate it so much. I will be there as Chairman Good's backup whenever he needs me, and again, it's my honor and privilege to serve our community and serve with you guys. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Nominations are now in order for CRA Chair. The elections guidelines remain the same. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Mr. Joe Citro.
Mr. Citro has been nominated. Is there another nomination? Yes, sir.
I'll nominate Orlando Goods.
Ms. Fox knows I'm going to decline that nomination. I believe everybody needs to get an opportunity to run for the chairmanship of that board. I feel that all the CRAs are in District 5. So it doesn't matter who's the chairman of District 5. I still own District 5 and make decisions for District 5. So I'm happy to decline that. And again, thank you, my friend, Mr. Dingfelder, for nominating me, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Is there another nomination? Would you call the roll, please? We're going to, oh, you have another nomination?
Carlson.
Mr. Carlson has been nominated. Is there another nomination? We will close the nominations on Mr. Citro and Mr. Carlson. Would you call the roll for Mr. Citro?
Yes. For Citro, it's Goose,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Respectfully, no.
Maniscalco,
This is for
CRA.
for
Citro.
No.
Carlson,
Since my name is on, I guess I have to say no.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira.
Tiebreaker says respectfully yes.
Okay.
All right, we have a 4-3 vote for Citro.
Okay. Mr. Citro, would you have any words?
Thank you very much, and I look forward to serving all the CRAs, all the members of the CRAs for the next year. Thank you very much.
Okay. And now for the vice chair of the CRA, is there a nomination? Yes, Mr. Dingfelder.
Mr. Carlson?
Mr. Carlson has been nominated. Is there another nomination? Would you call the roll?
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Vieira,
Respectfully yes. All my votes are respectfully today.
and Goose.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, wonderful. Mr. Carlson, have a few words?
No, thank you. Look forward to working with Chair Citro and the rest of you on that important endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone. Turn the meeting over to the new chair.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. If you don't mind, gentlemen, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess to converse with Mr. Shelby and the deputy clerk in the conference room. Just kind of brief over the agenda for a second, please.
I don't know, it's just a choice.
twice then.
Well, I cry so much for you, baby, there's nothing new. Well, I cry so much for you, baby, there's nothing new. Well, I wish I had $1 for the times I cried for you. Almost every night, I cry myself to sleep. Everybody else is so happy, and I just weep, weep, weep. Lord, these tears, tears, tears. Why won't they let me be? Lord, I wish just once you would cry for me. Oh yeah. What is that? Why do I remember? How could I forget? I wake up every morning, my pillow soaking wet from these tears, tears, tears. Why won't they let me be? Lord, I wish just once you would cry for me. Now, where were you last night? I cried all night long. Only way you do me, baby, is wrong, wrong, wrong. Lord, these tears, tears, tears. Why won't they let me be? Lord, I wish just once you would cry for me.
May 6th Tampa City Council will now come to order. We don't have an invocation today, so we'll just do a moment of silence, gentlemen. Let us stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please.
Vieira,
Here.
Carlson,
Here.
Dingfelder,
Here.
Citro,
Here.
Miranda,
Here.
Maniscalco,
Here.
Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. Go with the approval of the minutes and the addendum.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, could I have a point of, a moment of personal privilege at the podium?
I was going to do it through ceremony, but we'll go ahead. But we'll give you that option. Mr. Dingfelder, let me recognize.
Thank you. And if I could have Mr. Maniscalco here.
Oh,
And-
Ms. Galco.
And where's Lisa? Ms. Edwards?
Lisa, she's behind you, sir. Come on down, Miss Lisa.
Okay. A little bit of surprise this morning. So I'm going to make an off-agenda motion for a commendation to our former chairman, Guido Maniscalco. And I'll look for a second right now.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda.
Jones, really.
Motion made by Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous
All right.
consent.
Guido, come on down. Mr. Chairman, if I could, on behalf of Tampa City Council, we recognize our fellow council member and former chairman, Guido Maniscalco, for his exceptional dedication and leadership serving as our chairman during the 2021 term. With the pandemic taking center stage during his tenure, Guido's leadership was on full display each council meeting. From City Council's move to the Convention Center and then back to Old City Hall with a modified virtual meeting plan, this year was anything but normal. Chairman Guido Maniscalco went above and beyond the call of duty, continually displaying his calm demeanor during these very stressful times. Throughout the year, when unprecedented policies and procedures had to be implemented, most at the very last minute, Guido always remained composed and brought his wit and sense of humor to the occasion. It's with gratitude and appreciation that we, the members of Tampa City Council, present our 2021 Chairman Guido Maniscalco with this commendation and thank him for a job well done.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. This is completely random. I appreciate it. For the record, Guido Maniscalco, Tampa City Council, District 6.
Are you a resident?
Yes, sir. City of Tampa. City of Tampa. This is totally unnecessary, but I appreciate it. Get my own commendation. But I'll take this moment to congratulate Councilmember Goods, Chairman Goods. I wish you the best of luck in this new year. I hope it's easier. You know, we had a lot of complications last year with everything. But I wish you all the best of luck. I know you serve your community well. You are a fierce advocate, and you stand up for what is right. And you're not scared to stand up for the community in general. So I appreciate it, and more importantly, my aide Lisa, and any opportunity I get here or outside, I'm always praising her. She's been. I don't even have the words.
Well, here's the words.
The words are there.
And you may say them.
Okay, well, then I'll pass it on.
Mr. Chairman, we'll make a motion to give Lisa Edwards a commendation.
Ms. Dingfelder made a motion. Have a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Vieira. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You want me to
Unanimous consent.
All right. So Lisa, it is with great appreciation from the Tampa City Council that we honor you today for your outstanding service during the 2020-21 term as legislative aide to myself as chair, but to this entire City Council department. Serving as aide, you have navigated through the course of the unique and challenging year with a professional and approachable manner. With pandemic concerns at the forefront, you always responded quickly to last-minute issues and encounters, and when the public returned in person, at council meetings, you skillfully handled the groups in such a way that made the process smooth and efficient, all while remaining approachable and responsive to everyone's needs. It is with great gratitude and thanks that the Tampa City Council present you with this commendation for your exceptional service and dedication to all of us and the citizens of Tampa.
Wow, this is very unexpected as well, but I do want to say that it has been a pleasure serving Chairman Escalco during this time, and also all of you councilmen as well. And I learned a lot this year, and I appreciate all the support that was given to our office over this time. So thank you so much for this.
Mr. Miranda, like to say anything, sir?
I just want to say thank you for doing the work between second and third floor. Thank God you didn't use the elevator, you'd have worn it out. And, but you did a marvelous job in handling all the traffic, not only here, but the convention center, and adjusting to different areas that were totally new to all of us. And we thank you very much. Everyone does. Thank you so much.
Ms. Vera.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just, Lisa, congratulations. You know what I think about you. I think you're a wonderful lady and just a really good person with a really sweet heart, obviously. And you know, for former Chairman Maniscalco, obviously a fine gentleman with a very kind heart. You know, that I think here, Charlie and I have been chair now. Obviously, Goods and others will be chair in the future. I'm sure it's not an easy job, especially when you're running a meeting and everybody's looking at you, and you need to, you know, sometimes have those uncomfortable moments that maybe you shouldn't have, and the heat's totally on you. And you've done that, Mr. Chairman. So obviously we salute you for that. And sometimes for guys actually like you and me, being chair is a little bit hard. You know why? Because we're nice guys, right? We're Mr. Rogers Cubans. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes that can be really hard, but you've done a great job. And it was, you know, I wanted on principle to nominate you when I left being chair, just because I think, you know, you do a good job. I know you wanted it. You've been here, and you fulfilled the role well. So thank you for that. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cedro.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to take a picture of both of you, all with your accommodations, without all these sneeze guards around here. So if we can just do that later on. Second of all, Guido, I'm going to call you Guido, not Mr. Chair. When you first took on this role, I looked at you and I said, are you ready for this? And you said the best words ever is, this is going to be history. We're going to be making history in the predicament we're in. I thank you for allowing me to make history with you. Lisa, you have done the best job at making history. I thank you both. Congratulations to you both. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Carlson.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah, thank you to Guido for your leadership over the last year during these very difficult times, and you know, for always being fair and making sure that the public was listened to. And I could go on and on and on. But Lisa, you know, the legislative aides always are really, really stressed out in this role, and I appreciate all of them. Good luck, Sonia. But you really stepped up during two difficult times. You know, we had the COVID situation, which meant you ran up down the stairs. You had to set up all the facilities at the convention center. But also with the events of last summer, you know, we had hundreds of people who wanted their opinions to be expressed, and also we have that here. And I think you did a great job working with the rules of COVID and also helping make sure people were able to speak. And so thank you for giving the public the opportunity to speak. And I know this role is new in your career, and you've done an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you. This is not protocol, but I'm going to break a little bit. Mr. Shelby, would you like to say a few words, sir? I know that you work closely with the chair and the legislative aide all the time, so I know you might want to say something, sir, so I'll give you that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's really nothing more I can add. It's just been a tremendous honor and a privilege to serve Chairman Maniscalco, and everybody has spoken quite eloquently as to the challenges that have been faced, and quite frankly, I think that the people of the city of Tampa really don't know what this organization, including all the people that Lisa worked with in the administration together cooperatively as a team to make everything happen. A lot of people behind the scenes did a lot of work in unprecedented times to be able to make government work for them on their behalf. So I just want to say very much, always, it is an honor and a privilege to serve the City Council, and particularly the chair, and particularly this year. And again, my sincere thanks to Lisa Edwards. She did a phenomenal job, and she deserves all the acknowledgement and credit. So thank you very much, Council.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Guido, Mr. Scalco. I want to do something that, so I'm sure you're going to get a disc of this, a tape of this, since your aide has done a great job also like you have, so I'm going to do it in another language. And then you can do it in Italian. We'll have it in 3 languages. Es un placer haber trabajado con ustedes, señor Scalco Guido y señora Lisa Edwards, por un año de 2019 a 2020, hoy en mayo del 2020. La concesión que ustedes cogieron el trabajo fue muy dificultado porque las cosas que han pasado en el mundo entero con el COVID-19 y las cosas que han pasado en el general los gobiernos en el mundo entero. Y ustedes lo trabajaron, hacer un trabajo magnífico en una forma muy presentante y muy profesional. Muchísimas gracias a Dios, que Dios los bendiga.
Thank you very much.
I don't know what all that was, but it sure sounded real good, Mr. Miranda.
I'll translate it real quick. He said, Guido, you're my favorite city council member besides myself. And all my years here, you know, besides Charlie Miranda, you know, Guido Maniscalco.
That's exactly what I said.
No, it's a very nice thing that, you know, well, I'll translate it for you later. So.
Well, Mr. Chair and Lisa, you've been my friend since day one. Always smiling, trying to make everybody happy. Guido, you done it was a hell of a year. You weathered the storm. You kept us together. We're most appreciative for the work you've done, and Lisa, so congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Shelby, we'll go with the approval of the agenda. I know we have a walk-on for our ATU for this morning, sir.
And I have a couple of comments too, please.
Okay, and then we have a continuation. Number 8, Mr. Carlson is requesting.
Yeah, I think we also should receive and file number 76.
So you can file number 76.
And then also in the consent agenda, I forgot which number, but there are 2 issues that have to do with QTI. And instead of pulling them, that's the Economic Development Incentive Program by the state. Instead of pulling them, I asked Rob Rosner if he could just quickly make a few statements before we go to consent agenda, so he can just explain to the public what we're approving.
Which item again was that, sir?
Mr. Chairman, these ATU guys are down there waiting. Why don't we get rid of them first? Honor them first, excuse me, Mr. Simon.
We can do that, Mr. Dingfeller.
Want to do that?
Yes, we'll give you deference. We can do that.
It's number 31 and 32.
31 and 32. Let me just mark that right quick, then we'll get those guys out of the way.
Chairman, may I ask this, and I have nothing to say about the continuance as far as a continuance goes. They're routine, but this has been hanging out for at least 2 or 3 weeks now, and I've heard us say about kicking the can. We kick the can so much, and this one's become a styrofoam cup, and it makes no noise anymore. So I like to bring it to an end somehow. Maybe we can ask the administration to find out what they're doing regarding this here, or maybe not. It's up to the council. But I like to find some closure to this thing. The public on both sides are calling us daily, and all of us have received those calls. And I have not met with either one, and I just want to somehow finalize this.
Noted, Mr. Citro, you recognize.
I totally agree with Councilman Miranda. This has been going on too long. We need to make a decision on this.
Which one?
What are we?
Item number 8. So, Mr. Chubby,
We've been talking about 8.
Can we, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chubby, since we have some discussion want to be had in reference to number 8, what I'd like to do when we get to 8, if that's the case, we make a motion, or we're going to end this, we're going to continue this, or discussion.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Mr. Carson, you're
just real
recognized.
fast, 2 new pieces of information popped up this week. One is that, although apparently one of the administrative people said this a couple weeks ago. The mayor said this week, or a comment circulated this week, that the mayor is against it. And I learned yesterday that the mayor has a meeting with staff and the South of Gandy neighborhood leaders on Friday that I learned about from the neighborhood leaders. And so I presume that that is to try to find a solution. What the South of Gandy people have been trying to do is find a solution for South of Gandy, not citywide. And although this, I think they would ask us to vote for this, the problem is that they did not ask us for something that's not South of Gandy, and every expert I talked to says there are solutions that have not been discussed yet. And since the mayor is meeting with the South of Gandy leaders on Friday anyway, I think that I was not invited to that meeting, by the way, by anybody, but there is a meeting on Friday, and I presume that they'll be coming up with a solution that they'll be presenting to us. And so why would we approve a solution when they're working on a better one? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
You're recognized, Mr. Shelby.
I'm sorry to ask this question, but is it council's intention to hold the discussion rather than cut it short for the purposes of getting to the ATU? If you can wait to item 8, otherwise you'd have to invest the time now to hear the rest of the council.
I think that might be best to wait for the consent to number 8, and then the staff is listening. They can chime in if they wish, and if that's what the mayor is having a meeting, then maybe we should wait.
And with regard to any other changes, additions, substitutions, or deletions?
Anybody on the reference to the staff reports, that we can release anyone, ask you gentlemen to go through the list from 69 through 78.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Shelby.
Thank you, sir. With regard to the staff reports and unfinished business, in conference with the Chief of Staff, he does ask Council to review those items, number 69 today through 78, to see if there are any that do require staff to be present, and if the reports are sufficient to release the administration staff members so they can get back to their day job. And otherwise, if there are things that Council does wish to have staff appear on, to be able to put the administration on notice. So the staff reports at 1:30, they'll be standing by.
I think we ought to receive and file number 76 to start with.
Mr. Carlson has made a motion to receive and file number 76. Second by Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Motion passes.
And if
Mr. I saw Mr. Vieira's hand first. We'll go to Mr. Dingfelder.
And Councilman Dingfelder can go first. I mean, or whoever. I guess, you know what? I guess I'll go first. For 75, I don't need anyone here. We can talk about it, but I don't need anyone here for that.
Okay, 75 can be released. Mr. Dingfelder, you're recognized.
That's Ms. Witten on number 75.
Yep.
Thank you.
In regard to item number 70, Ms. Glover and I started a conversation this week. I appreciate her time. I didn't get a chance to completely get back to her, so I'd ask for a 1-month continuance on item 70, and hopefully we can wrap that up and bring an ordinance to council at that time.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Vieira. You recognize Mr. Shelby?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where the date then would be June 3rd at staff reports and unfinished business?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dingfelder, for bringing that to our attention, because I would like to bring that to a close. Mr. Shelby, you recognized.
And a vote on that, please, sir.
Motion by Mr. Dingfelder. I think it was seconded by Mr. Vieira.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Item number 70.
70, yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman, the other item is item 18, and I apologize for not bringing this forward by memo yesterday. I'd like to carry this over for 2 weeks to have a chance to discuss with this item with staff. I don't need a lot of time, but I do need to go offline with them on item 18. So I'd move to continue that for 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, that being on the consent docket, my suggestion would be if the staff is available, if there's an issue that they need to comment or bring to staff's attention before there is a motion voted on, to get staff input with regard to that item. Ultimately, it's council's decision, of course, but a request for a continuance, I don't know whether this is time sensitive, but normally as a courtesy.
How about a different route? Why don't we continue it for now, and if if they have a concern with that, they can let me know, and I'll bring it back up later in the meeting.
Okay, then the motion would be then to continue it for
2 weeks.
which is, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk?
May 20th.
May 20th.
Motion been made by Mr. Dingfelder. Second, anybody? Second by Mr. Maniscalco.
And I don't want to get into like a mini thing before ATU here. I mean, I know they're waiting for us.
Yes.
My only issue with this is, I mean, I would have no problem with the continuance, I'm sure. I just want to see if there's anything from staff. I mean, I'll tell you what, is there any way, Mr. Shelby, that, oh, there you go, that we can continue it now, again, out of deference to Councilman Dingfelder, and if they want it to be brought up, we can bring it back on the agenda if need be?
Absolutely.
If it's,
Absolutely.
okay.
And that was my intent, Mr. Vier.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, motion on the floor by Mr. Dingfelder. Second, Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Chairman Good.
Yes?
Good morning, Chairman Good. Carol Post from Administration and Development. I just want to let you know that I am on the line should you need to discuss the continuance of item number 8 prior to the item coming up on the agenda. I know you have the ACU in the wing, so I'll defer to your direction on that, but I did want to let you know we are ready, willing, and able to discuss the matter concerning the continuance.
Thank you for chiming in, Ms. Post. We've got to get these ATU folks out of here. They've been waiting, and number 8 is a big issue, so we'll hold off with you. You can stay on the line while we deal with the ATU, if you don't mind, ma'am.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Ms. Shelby, we can go now with the approval of the minutes of the agenda, correct, sir?
The agenda and the addendum, yes.
Okay. Approval of the addendum and the approval of the agenda.
Second.
Ms. Maniscalco has moved it. Ms. Citro has seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion moves. All right, we'll go to ceremonials with our ATU staff. I have my aide Sonia down there. She's going to do it for us today.
You. Tampa City Council presents this commendation in recognition of James Dawson, ATU Employee of the Month, for your exceptional performance of duty as an Engineering Technician 3 with the Contract Administration Division for the City of Tampa. Since joining the city in 2015, you play a key role in the service the city provides by managing a variety of capital improvement construction projects and undertaking complex and difficult situations during challenging times. In this role, James, you assist leadership tremendously by your sharp attention to detail and doing a spectacular job. As a model public servant, James, you are always courteous and respectful towards everyone, displaying your professionalism on a daily basis. You are one of the city's secret weapons, and you have a great impact on the service the city provides. Your positive attitude and your ability to inspire others with your work ethic is well known, and we are proud to have you as a member of our workforce. It is with great pleasure Tampa City Council presents this commendation on the 6th day of May, 2021.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve. Good morning, Council, and congratulations on your elections. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to present the ATU Employee of the Month Award. Allow me to introduce you to James Dawson. James Dawson is an Engineering Technician 3 with the Contract Administration Department. His astute attention to detail over his construction projects is but one specific attribute that defines his abilities. James sets an example for others to follow by maintaining a professional demeanor during difficult and challenging situations. He's instrumental in overseeing and successfully completing a variety of capital improvement construction projects for the city and is highly respected by team members and city contractors. James aspires to accept more complex and difficult assignments and is always willing and eager to provide training in support of those on his team. Currently, he is assigned multiple inspection duties within the city's water department treatment facility, and his technical prowess and persistence ensures inspections are thorough, complete, and in compliance. James' high quality characteristics such as honesty, ambition, and strong work ethic make him a pleasure to work with. We commend his exemplary conduct, and it has earned him the honor of receiving this month's ATU Employee of the Month Award. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for your time. I would just like to thank my leadership behind me. You know, without those guys, this wouldn't be present. And of course, lastly, my wife, Iola, without her support, I wouldn't be here today. So,
thank you, sir.
Thank
Anybody, any comments?
Oh, wait.
Ms. Vera, you're recognized.
Just thank you for your service to the city of Tampa. We know that, you know, we're the heart and soul of our city are all of our employees, including our ATU members. And we just thank you very much. You know, like Mr. Simon says, y'all always keep the city running on time. And that's through jobs that are often seen, that are often not seen. And so today's the time in which we can, you know, just see what you do. But just thank you very much for your service. What y'all do is public service, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Citro, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Congratulations to you. As I always say, all the employees of the city of Tampa are family. And I thank you for being part of the family, and thank you for being union strong.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Sir, thank you for your service. Again, everyone plays a part in the city. Ms. Davis, I didn't see Mr. Randall. He's down that corner. I'll just go ahead and finish up by saying thank you for a job well done. And Mr. Randall, you recognize, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your work ethics, like you were mentioned before, and you're one of the unsung heroes. Many of the employees of the city of Tampa, public doesn't see them and what they do on a daily basis to make this city work. As you well know, being an engineer and working as hard as you have for a good friend of the city, it's very difficult to continue doing the progress on a day-to-day basis with the limited resources that we have. But you and your group and your operation of the union that you belong to are to be commended for what you do on a daily basis. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
My colleague to the right of me said there's a guy by the name of Mr. Michelini behind you, and I couldn't see him. So if he wants to come forward, I'm sure he's got some goodies for you.
You see, this is a big guy here.
We're so spread out. I got Mr. Dingfellow waiting too. We're so spread out, sometimes I can't see these hands going up, you know.
See, I asked Brad Baird when we were waiting for you earlier, I said, did he play for the Bucks or something? Or you know, Steve Michelini, I'm here on behalf of a couple of different folks. And first I wanted to say that, you know, the back of the house people, the guys and the women in the contract administration make things run smoothly. They're the ones who ensure that the contracts for the field workers go correctly in the way they're supposed to go. So we appreciate them. They're rarely seen, but we all hear about them because these projects move forward in an expeditious manner. So on behalf of the Straz Center, we're going to provide a gift certificate so he can go see the show of his choice, and we have a whole list of shows that he can choose from. On behalf of the Chicho's Restaurant Group, we're providing him with a gift certificate for his choice, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, if he can enjoy any of those. And on behalf of Yummy House China Bistro, we're providing him, and I'm sure his co-workers are going to want to go to that one, but he can choose again lunch or dinner, and we're very happy to present that to him. And congratulations for what you do for us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I see Mr. Dingfellow, you recognize, sir.
Thank you.
Steve got, we got to jump up there, Steve. Go ahead and give your stuff, Steve, and anybody else behind it, we'll get Mr. Dingfellow to give his comments.
I just wanted to, on behalf of ATU Local 1464, give a token of appreciation to James, a $100 gift card.
Thank you, sir.
That's great.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dingfellow, I think that's it. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. James, well, first off, I want to thank Chairman Goods and Mr. Simon for doing this award on a regular basis. It's important that all of our employees see that we appreciate their hard work. James, you've got a group of folks behind you, your workmates back there, and including Mr. Baird. And we've all worked closely with Mr. Baird for many years, and if Mr. Baird says you're a good guy and he's standing there behind you shaking his head, then we know you're a good guy, and we appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item number 5.
All right. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify in regard to the staff reports, the ones we were releasing. It's a little confusing. So basically, are we saying that if they gave us a memo and that's adequate and we're not going to hear from them, or what are we saying here? And
Mr. Shelby, can you speak to that? Because I think that'll be a discussion we may have later on down the line with the Chief of Staff in reference to some house cleaning things.
And specifically, I brought up they're all important issues. I brought up an important issue on item 74 as related to an impact fee to help support police and fire. And we got 2 memos back. But I think a discussion on that would be good. So, I don't know where we are on that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's exactly the point, that if there are memos that received, now this one also says to appear and provide a report, but if council should feel that the report suffices, they certainly, and you have certainly the opportunity to release the administration from having to be at staff reports for something that really will not be necessary for discussion at council's determination. With regard to, let's say, number 74, what Councilmember Dingfelder just did was specifically request that staff be present for the 1:30 staff reports to discuss item 74. That's appropriate. Now, for instance, there are some, for instance, as you did on number 75, where the role is just to provide a report, that is appropriate to make it clear to release the administrator from having to be online for item 75, and that's what you've done previously. With regard, let's say, to number 77, that's to investigate and report. You did have a memorandum to receive and file. The question is whether council wants Mr. Perez or a member of the legal department to be here for a report on number 77. If that report suffices to release the administration and the staff from having to be on call. The same thing as you with number 78. Number 78 is a report, and that was received, distributed to council. The question is whether you want to have somebody here on number 78. So I understand, council, and I've had this opportunity, and Mr. Chairman certainly will have the opportunity to speak with the Chief of Staff, but the Chief of Staff has communicated that the time that you invest up front in giving direction to council as to their time requirements for your meetings will certainly aid in their efficiency, and it's very much appreciated by the administration for you to be able to look through your staff reports and determine which you feel as a council are necessary for staff to be here. And of course, today, there are a lot of staff reports, council, and I recognize that. There's a lot of things on the agenda for you to look through.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a suggestion?
You recognize, sir.
Thank you. So maybe when we're doing the agenda, the agenda review in the beginning, maybe Mr. Chairman might want to just jump to the staff reports and walk through each one and just say release. If anybody has any objections, speak up. This one's released, this one stays, this one's released, and then that way each council person can speak up as to each one.
I think that might be a good suggestion, Mr. Dingfelder. I'll give Mr. Shelby and Chief of Staff because and forgive me, because 78, I didn't realize that was just a report. I thought that would be an appearance because I did I had a conversation with HR about 78, and I thought that probably council would chime on that as well because I think it kind of coincides with 76, and so I thought they would be here and I could chime in on 78 as well. So I get your point. I think that's something we made, Ms. Shelby, myself, and Chief of Staff discuss those issues because I think Mr. Dingfelder brings up a good point because things do come up along the way.
Mr. Chairman, you raise also a very interesting issue. If it is a written report, but the report generates the need for staff to be present to answer questions, during your approval of the agenda, you could still say that you have questions. If you're not able to, of course, answer or have the staff answer those questions in advance of the meeting, so you won't have to have them there. But if you want them to appear during the approval of the agenda, that would say, yes, we have a report that's been distributed. I do request, or council does request staff to be present at the staff reports, if that's council's pleasure.
And I believe on 76, staff will be here for 76, so I believe they should be able to address 78 as well.
Well, 76, Mr. Chairman, was already received and filed, I believe, by motion.
Yeah, you're correct.
So I don't know what your pleasure is with regard to 78.
I like them to actually hear the report so council can really get a full understanding of 78, and I didn't recognize it, and I apologize to staff for that.
So is it council's pleasure, Mr. Chairman, by unanimous consent and with the administration hopefully listening to have staff present for number 78 to discuss? Is that your intention?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You want to walk through each one then and
Yep.
see if anybody wants to pull it?
We'll do that now. Anyone for item number 70? They're going to make a presentation already.
That one's been
Continued.
To June 3rd, and with regard to the administration update in agenda review with the city clerk and the chief of staff and the legal department yesterday, we've been informed that there is no administration update on number 69.
71, we do have a memo on that for to be continued. So there shouldn't be a question on that one. Number 72.
Excuse me if I can.
Yes, Mr. Shelby.
Do you want to take up that memorandum and take it off the agenda with asking?
Yeah, I'll move 71 and 72 to May 27th.
Well,
Mr. Dingfelder made a motion. Mr. Carlson seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. 73.
I'm okay for that to go away.
So we can release on 73.
You could do a motion to receive and file right now.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
73 is released. Thank you.
74 is appearing.
That's, yeah, 74, I'd like us all to talk about it.
Okay.
75 and 76.
75.
I believe that was released. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
Yep. 75, Mr. Vera said he was sufficient with the report, correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Carlson, motion to receive and file.
Second.
Second, Mr. Maniscalco. All in favor?
And I would, if I may, I would like to discuss the findings, but I mean, I don't need to have anybody here for that.
You want to withdraw?
I think so, yeah, I mean. Since, I may want to say some remarks on it, but I don't need anybody here from staff for that.
Okay, motion withdrawn. 76 has been,
76 is done.
okay, 76 is done. 77. And
I believe that was Mr. Maniscalco's motion. Did you want to report, Mr. Maniscalco? What do you want?
Speak to that, Mr. Maniscalco's motion. I believe that Maniscalco is correct on these issues. Not only that area that he specifically mentioned in this report and this investigation and report, but the whole city of Tampa has to come to grips of what are we going to do with the illegal trucks. And I don't mean trucks that are, you know, F-150s or F-250s. I mean semis and trucks that are, you know, 2.5 tons, and they're parked everywhere in the city, and they're leaving them there from Friday night to Monday morning, and it's some kid is going to get killed unexpectedly because the traffic can't see them. Come up behind one of those trucks, they're parked there on the city road, city right of way, and you're not going to have a chance to stop. And somebody, the families on both sides, those that are deceased and those that did the act of not trying to kill anyone, it's an act that two families are going to get hurt. And Ms. Callick was 110% correct in doing this.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I may, and I'm sorry, I can't see Councilman Maniscalco from where I am. But if it's council's intention to want to discuss this because you're in the sunshine, this is the opportunity for you to hear from each other. If you want staff present for number 77, you can do that and when you discuss it. Is that council's pleasure?
I would like that, just so the public is clear that we are looking at enforcement for these vehicles. Councilman Miranda said it all. I mean, Sunday morning, I get a phone call about a tractor trailer parking that regularly parks in this gentleman's parking lot on his property. It's tearing up his parking lot, blocking the stop sign, blocking, visibility where, again, someone's going to get killed. That's the newest complaint. Other times they're blocking sidewalks. I have people complaining, ADA accessibility, where the sidewalk is there, but these vehicles are parking on the right-of-way and blocking everything, meaning that they have to take their motorized wheelchairs out into the street, which poses a hazard. Children involved, people on bicycles, whatever it is. I would like staff here, just so we get clarity for the public to know, because I've been receiving complaints. I know Councilman Moran's receiving complaints for years, and we want the people to know that there is enforcement coming via TPD, via code enforcement, where we're doing something about this, because,
We'll have them here, sir.
All right.
All right. And I've already commented on 78. I think Mr. Shelby, in the future, we'll get together, Chief of Staff. I think Mr. Dingfield has a point. I think doing these staff reports, we go down to each one of them and make sure that if staff is needed or not, because sometimes we miss things, and we don't want to do that. So I think it's a good idea we go down those staff reports first, and then we can make sure we can release those people. All right. We made the corrections. Moving on, we'll go to item number 5.
Shirley Fox Snow, City Clerk, regarding item number 5, as it relates to Equal Business Opportunity Advisory Commission. This item was continued regarding the term, and I believe Mr. Hart and Mr. Shelby, they've both been talking, so if you want to report.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fox Knowles. Council, I distributed to you a communication that I've had with Mr. Greg Hart, the manager of the Equal Business Opportunity Office, and he does confirm that the EBOAC have been meeting since August when they reconvened and have been meeting virtually and have been meeting consistently. So with that, he stated that their initial appointment expired on August 23rd of 2020, and hence their appointments will expire in August of 2022, and consistent with that direction, I have prepared a resolution for council's approval, which is retroactive to August 23rd of 2020. So if council wishes to move the resolution, that would present it for the chairman's signature.
Motion moved.
So moved.
Ms. Citrus, motion. Ms. Scalca, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
And again, thank you for Councilman Miranda for bringing this issue to clarity. Thank you.
Item number 6.
That relates to, number 5 relates to Janet Bishop and Nicole Winkler. We have another EBOAC item, and that relates to H.A. Malshi. He's looking to be reappointed.
Move to approve.
Second.
Ms. Maniscalco has moved. Mr. Citrus, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
And item number 7, we have another reappointment on Code Enforcement / Public Nuisance Abatement Board for Jason Valkenberg, looking to be reappointed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Citrus, second by Ms. Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very kindly.
I don't believe we have any requests for any public reconsideration, any legislative matters, do we, Mr. Shelby?
Not that I'm aware. You've made that announcement. You could see if there's anybody responsive to that. I don't believe anybody's registered for that. Is that correct?
Anybody registered for that, Deputy Clerk?
No, no one is registered.
And I don't believe there's anybody on the second floor for it, to my knowledge.
We'll move into item number 8.
We will go to public comments.
A public comment, I'm sorry, thank you, Deputy Clerk. What a public comment. How many do we have downstairs?
I believe there's 10
10?
on the second
Okay.
floor.
We can see you, sir.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right, thank you. I'll be very brief. Daryl McAteer on 100 South Ashley Drive, Suite 2000 here in Tampa. I'm also a Tampa resident, and I work with Phelps Dunbar LLP. And while I generally oppose what I call the alternate moratorium process on apartments in any geography within the city of Tampa in these three land use categories, I would support the continuance. I think that's a great idea to move the focus back to south of Gandy and to have the debate where the debate started and where the issue is intense. That's where this issue belongs. And the fact that it's spread citywide, it's wreaking havoc in the real estate industry. We're getting a lot of calls. It's destroying predictability in the land use process. And at least moving it back, the discussion back to south of Gandy would be a tremendous benefit. Again, I don't support the moratorium in general, but at least move the discussion back to south of Gandy where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Erin Chansey. I live in North Ybor, East Tampa area. I'm an IT professional working in downtown Tampa, and I'm here to discuss permitting and construction services. When I moved to East Tampa over 3 years ago, 1816 East 18th Avenue was owned by the Sorales Group. They attempted to rent out the shed in their backyard. However, the city of Tampa issued an order stating that the shed was not a separate domicile and it could not be rented as such. The order stated that the kitchenette that was installed without permits in the shed, in addition to the separate electric meter, was to be removed. It never was. The Sorales Group then transferred the property to one of their employees, a man by the name of William. William did rent out the shed. This was reported to and observed by Tampa's code enforcement. At some point later, the last renters of the shed left. There was a fire damaging the interior that made it uninhabitable. That is its current state. A couple of months ago, Williams sold 1816 East 18th Avenue to another investor who has since applied for a permit to renovate the main house and the shed, calling the shed a detached mother-in-law suite. They have not yet submitted plans. However, like the investor who owns 1813 East 18th Avenue, the pre-construction site plan was chicken scratch on a sheet of paper. And also like that other investor, some level of construction started prior to a permit being issued, as was evidenced by the work crew on site working last week, the multiple work trucks in and out of the property, and the 2 dumpsters of scrap building materials that were filled up by their efforts. One has since been hauled away, the other is still sitting in the driveway. I sincerely hope that unlike the investor who owns 1813 East 18th Avenue, a permit will not be issued for plans that do not meet the specifications that the city of Tampa held us to when my husband and I recently improved our home. I also hope that no permits will be issued for work on 1816 East 18th Avenue until it completes. This complies with the city's order to remove the kitchenette and the separate electric meter that are presently installed on the shed. Although, given what has happened with the investor-owned properties at 1813 East 18th Avenue and the history with 1816 East 18th Avenue, I have little hope for either of those outcomes. It seems as though investors get to play by a different set of rules than the rest of us homeowners, often at the expense of the rest of us, and moreover, the expense of my neighborhood. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Brandon, you're recognized, sir.
Excellent. Thank you.
Their own name, so they get preference as a homeowners, a tax rate instead of a business tax rate. And if you're paying $1,000 a year, you should be paying $4,000 a year or thereabouts. And what's happening here is that the city of Tampa is suffering, Hillsborough County is suffering, and more important, the school board is suffering. None of those taxes are collected. And on top of that, it doesn't apply, and I'm not saying that they're cheating, I'm saying it doesn't apply more likely in their taxes when they formed their own taxes. It was April, now it's, I think, the 17th of this month of May. When they apply it, that never shows because it's not a rental business, it's just something that was added on. And these are the problems that we're facing for whatever reason throughout the city of Tampa and through the whole state of Florida and possibly the nation. And it's not that they don't care, it's that there's so many of them. We did a small take on sampling about 5 years ago, and in a small area of a certain district in West Tampa, we found 232 homes that were identified in a small area as more than likely having rental properties without consent, without paying taxes, without paying something. And what's happening is that the general population are the ones that are paying their tax because the cost of living goes up not only for city employees, but for all businesses. And let's face it, what's happening, Mr. Chairman, is something, and when she said a grandmother or a mother-in-law suite, that's another thing. At the end of the day, I'm gonna make a motion I'll tell you what it is. It's to set up the burdens of this city to identify the mother-in-law suite or the grandmother suite, or wherever you want to call it. They're going to have to prove to us that the bloodline is there. There's all kinds of abilities now that can be done and not at a great expense. And why should we be responsible for tracking down if they really are related? They have to, when they prove that, they sign a form that that's their parents or that's, and figure it out. And at one time, and I hope it's still done, in certain areas of the city, that was allowed way back, and I have no problem with that at all. In fact, I still don't have a problem with it if it's really for your family member. But you have to present the evidence to this city that it is your family member. We don't have to go out and investigate that it is. So at the end of the meeting, I'll make something on it, Mr. Chairman. But this is something that's becoming a hard burden to the rest of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Appreciate the information, Mr. Randa, and we look forward to your motion during new business, sir. Yes, sir, you can begin.
Thank you. My name is Clayton Long. I live in the North Ybor, East Tampa area. I'm a business owner and a Tampa resident of nearly 40 years, and I've come to talk about permitting and construction services. A couple of weeks ago, I addressed the City Council concerning an investor in my neighborhood. He owns at least 2 houses in my neighborhood. He had 2 stop work orders issued on his 1813 East 18th Avenue house. I discussed how he applied for a permit after his first stop work order on that house, and I described how his plans were approved, even though they were not to scale and did not have electrical diagrams, didn't have window diagrams, installation details, and all of the other things that were listed as in scope for the permit. 2 weeks ago, I returned to tell you that Mr. Hutchinson from Tampa's Construction Services contacted me, presumably at the urging of one or more members of City Council. And he told me that he would ensure construction would not start at 1813 East 18th Avenue until the plans met the city's stated requirements. The same requirements I had to meet when I did construction of a similar scope of work on my home just 3 years ago. Well, a permit was issued to 1813 East 18th Avenue, and the plans still fall way short of the city's specifications. And we're not talking about minor work here. The scope of the work includes window replacements for all of the windows in the house, removing walls, rebuilding the kitchen with an island, and substantial electrical work. So I stand before you again and ask, why is it when I apply for a permit, I have to meet the city's stated specifications, that it's to ensure the building code compliance and to protect the neighborhood? But when I ask, why isn't the investor next door held to the same standard, it's apparently too burdensome. To any objective observer, it certainly looks like shenanigans is going on here. To further illustrate this point, let me show you what the City of Tampa made me submit for my permit plans. So these are some detailed specifications for the window installation. And here, these are the electrical diagrams. All of this is to scale. It has all of the measurements in it. It is to the specifications that the city requires, including the exact size, which the city pushed back on me for 2 months until I got it approved. The other investor got approved after 2 weeks with this. Now, any of you look at that and tell me that this seems fair to you. This person is going to sell this house without any of the workers knowing exactly what they built, without the inspector being able to look at this and know how it's being built or what the full scope of work is.
You can continue.
I'm saying this ends up hurting people. This is really all that's going on here. And this time, this ship has sailed, right? Work is already completed on this, but we knew about this ahead of time. We had the opportunity to do the right thing, and we failed to do so. And I just want us to recognize that and try to do better next time. Thank you for your assistance on this matter. I know some of you were involved with this and did help. And I do appreciate that, but this is a real ongoing problem that honestly needs to be addressed in the city of Tampa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Susan Long, and I live in Seminole Heights. The problems you've heard about for the last two speakers are the same problems, but at a lesser degree, that we have in Seminole Heights. We have a problem with permitting buildings that are in total violation of the restrictions on building in Seminole Heights. A house was approved to be built 4 doors down the street from me. It was being built butt up to the sidewalk in front of the houses on either side. It was zoned SHRS. We zoned it that way, particularly so that construction services and anybody else looking at it would know it was in Seminole Heights and know what the restrictions were. And we had to call construction services, have them come out, look at what they had done, and construction services made them rip out everything they'd put in that was too close to the street, too close to the neighbor, etc. This is an ongoing issue that we have. What is required from one person is totally different from what is required from another. If you happen to be the guy that turns in the plan on a napkin and they approve it, you won financially. If you happen to be the person that got caught and made follow the restrictions, you have to spend a lot of money to meet the requirements. It's very frustrating for those of us who live in neighborhoods that are still developing or beginning to be developed to discover that one person can do anything they want and the next person has to spend thousands of dollars to make it acceptable. This is a problem that's been going on for eons in the city. I've lived here 20 some odd years, and this has been going on since the day I moved in, and I hear that these problems have all been solved, and 2 weeks later the same thing's happening again. I hope that this type of problem can be resolved this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Steve Michelini. I'm here to speak on item number 8, and I urge you to reject this proposal for this ordinance. The ordinance has a wide-ranging effect. There's been no finding of urgency regarding this. The impending challenges for health, safety, and welfare have not been discriminated. Indeed, this issue has bounced back and forth. It started out as coastal high hazard, and then it became evacuation, and then it became density and traffic and transportation, and it has unintended consequences regarding the principal areas designated for growth in the transit corridors, USF, West Shore, downtown, Channelside, Ybor City. They would all suffer Please keep in mind that the transit corridors are legally defined and designated as high-density development areas, and this has been no substantial and competent evidence submitted, discussed, or provided that warrants such an extreme measure, and these areas would all be impacted. There's no evidence or any measure that demonstrated justification for any action supporting the proposed ordinance. In this regard, we are wholly opposed, this is on behalf of the Builders Association, to adopting this measure and the effects of the entire city. The objectives of the ordinance have changed. We do support the fact that this has been transmitted to the Planning Commission for input, evaluation, study, and recommendations that will come back to the Planning Commission Board as well as the Tampa City Council. I'd like to show you a map. This is the areas that will be impacted by the proposed ordinance. These are all CMU 35, CC 35, and UMU 60 areas. If you notice, they're all aligned along the transit corridors. Here is a map showing you the designated transit corridors. All of these have been adopted through your comprehensive plan, and they're also reflected in your City of Tampa code. This is a map that shows you the districts of the city that are impacted and where they are. Principally, and this is a detail of that same map, principally the areas where you're showing and expecting growth to occur that'll be affected are Districts 5 and District 6. That's East Tampa, Ybor City, and West Tampa and the airport area. So in that regard, the objective, which is what I understood it to be, was to try to assist south of Gandy. This completely misses the mark and affects other areas. Again, unintended consequences. We urge you to reject this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, okay?
Go ahead, sir.
Mentez not. Just as in Reconstruction, white people Reconstruction, and when you hear Grant's Soup Kitchen and everything else that went with it, and the carpet bagging and the scallywags and everything else that went with it, yeah, I always reflect back and go back to old slavery days because I always feel like we're in new slavery days. So I always connect back to something people can understand. Just like we've got a chairman now, we've got an African chairman of the city council, and I want to commend the chairman. You don't normally hear me thank people. I normally thank the kids for doing what they're doing. I want to commend the chairman for getting the chairmanship position of city council, but we don't want that position to go to waste. We don't want it to be like when Perry Harvey was there, and when Gwen Miller was there, and when Les Miller was there, and when the other people was there, and when Kevin White was there, and when Thomas Scott was there, and when Frank Reddick was there. We want, hey, can y'all hold the conversation down on the other side, please? Can you hold my time up? Yeah, if you can restore my time, I'd be much appreciative. We want it to be
30
just like...
seconds to his time, and whoever's in the staff that's in there, we can make sure that people are voices are to a minimum, please.
We want it to be like when it was Grant's Soup Kitchen and everybody was trying to get something. We got an African chairman now. We want to get something. We want to get some reparations from this city since that's been formed since 1823. In 2023, it's going to be 200 years, and we ain't got nothing out of it. We want to get our 26% out of it. That's what we want to get out of it. We would like our chairman, we would like our African chairman to start talking about reparations. We would like our African chairman to start talking about really bringing some services to our communities. We would like our African chairman to talk about reversing all the bicycle stops, and everybody who've had a bicycle stop, take it off their record. That's what we would like. We would like our African chairman to talk about everybody who got a code violation. We want that off their property and off their names. That's what we want. That's what we want inside our communities, because you know why? Come down here and try to make some noise and try to say something and try to express yourself. And these people have a hatred. I always say they got a hatred for African people. But now we got an African chairman, so we want something out the deal. That's what we would like out the deal. We would like reparations. We would like those bicycle stops to be removed off of all our names. We would like the code violations to be gone with. We would like our youth to be stopped being harassed by the police, defunding the police, defunding code enforcement, stuff like that. We want to start seeing some real issues get talked about. We don't want these play issues and all this fraternity, sorority, award ceremony, accommodation. That's nonsense. Standing and pledging allegiance to the flag and all that other stuff, that's nonsense. Praying to your God and represent city council in a certain way is nonsense. We want to see some real sense come to District 5 and other districts and what's going on inside our African community. So those are the things that we want to see from our chairman: reparations, bicycle stops, and code enforcement off the backs of African people.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Tisdale.
very much. Thank you.
Morning, sir. Good.
Yes, my name is Victor DeMaio. I live at 3112 North Rome Avenue. I'm president of Tampa's newest neighborhood association, Bowman Heights. We are on our borders are the Columbus Drive to the south, Hillsborough River to the east, Tampa Bay to the north, and Howard, Armenia to the west. I'm here to speak about item 77 that we've worked for years on now, it seems like, with Councilman Guido Maniscalco, the former chair, because we have a really serious situation that we haven't been able to resolve with code enforcement and TPD, with businesses who are parking their commercial vehicles in the neighborhood. Our neighborhood association consulted with several former city attorneys, and the wording that's been on the books for many years saying that commercial vehicles cannot park in neighborhoods unless they're a plumber who lives there or an electrician who's working on a house in that neighborhood are just not allowed. And I appreciate Councilman Miranda realizing that we do have a very serious problem, and if you do move this language from the one section it's currently in now to another section, which we felt that code enforcement and TPD had the right to write tickets. If that's what the legal beagles tell us we have to do, then we have to do. So we're begging you to please move that ordinance so that we can have some relief, and we won't have any more excuses from code enforcement and TPD on acting on these really bad actors that take advantage. And in West Tampa for many years we've let a lot of things go and look the other way, but we'd like to have our neighborhood as nice as the people who live in South Tampa and other areas of the city. So please, it's item number 77. We'd like to not have any more delays on this. We'd like to have it done and enacted so we can move forward and help to please clean up our neighborhood. If anybody has any questions, I'll be here when that item comes up on 77, and we can talk more about the situation that we're in and how we can help, not just our neighborhood, but this can apply in the entire city if this situation comes up again. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chairman.
Morning, sir.
And members of City Council. Before I make my comments, I'd like to get some clarification from Mr. Shelby on where we are procedurally, because I was late arriving, and I have Mr. Carlson's memorandum that the item be continued for 2 weeks. So is this the speaking on the continuance or speaking on the merits of the ordinance?
Pardon? Both, frankly. The items it was discussed briefly, Mr. Grandoff, during the approval of the agenda, but the further discussion and any action, if council does choose to take it, will be taken up at item number 8. So you
Okay.
can speak, the answer is yes, both.
Why wouldn't we speak at the time the item's called on the agenda?
Because that is not set for a public hearing. It is a legislative matter. Council will be taking up changes to its rules down the road very shortly to perhaps allow that. But at this point in time, it's a legislative matter that is on the consent docket.
Okay, so going forward, the consideration of this ordinance will be done by council, but public comment will be limited to only the public comment section of the agenda?
Today, yes. If it moves on first reading, it will be set for a second reading and public hearing, which will be an additional public hearing where testimony or comments will be taken.
Okay, so at that second public hearing, assuming that occurs, then public comment, any comment would be made at the time the item's called on the agenda, not at the public comment section.
You mean at the second
reading?
At the second reading. Council, if it wishes to open up public comment for item number 8 and wishes to waive its rules to do so, it certainly does have that ability if it chooses. Your opportunity now, frankly, my understanding is that it's the next item, is it not, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Shelby, we'll discuss that on number 8, but right now we'll continue with public comment.
Okay.
And we'll deal with the rest of it as it comes, sir.
Okay,
I'd like
well,
to continue with public comment.
I don't want to be arguing form over substance, but either way it's heard. My time would be limited to 3 minutes, and other parties in the public would be limited to 3 minutes as long as they want to speak. What concerns me is the public comment time is a fixed time, and that could limit public discourse about the ordinance. Now, I'm fine because I'm going to speak in a moment, but I want to make sure that there's ample time
Mr.
for
Bernard, we're
others.
going to continue now. We're going to give you your time, 3 minutes. If you'd like to speak to number 8, it's public comment, if you wish.
Yes, sir.
And then we'll continue as we go.
Thank you for the direction. I appreciate it. First of all, my name is John Grandoff. My address is Suite 3700 Bank of America Plaza. I'm speaking on item 8, which is the ordinance entitled the Interim Development Control Ordinance. Before doing so, I want to correct things. You are not in a posture of a substantial, competent evidence weighing procedure. You're exercising legislative action. You are the lawmakers of the city, and rightly so. That's why you're elected. You have broad discretion in passing this ordinance, broad power that can sometimes be abused or improperly exercised. So while you have broad discretion in exercising your legislative power, I caution you of a couple things, and I think what's important is that there are many contracts that are pending around the city right now in which deposit money has gone non-refundable, significant funds, and the final closing on those purchase contracts depend upon, during the due diligence period, how many units can be designed on the property based upon FAR, and that could be 100 units. And but if it's designed on a per unit basis, that could be 70 units. And I'm not arguing about the 30, but I'm saying that you have contracts that depend upon a unit count based upon FAR. You have pro formas that have been run. All of this goes asunder if you take out the FAR under the comprehensive plan right now. The seller's price becomes in doubt. That gets renegotiated, maybe, maybe not. The purchaser's pro forma is definitely in doubt. How do you renegotiate a contract once this ordinance becomes effective? Is the city council affecting the private right of contract? That's something that needs to be considered in your discretion. You're placing a chilling effect on commerce when the government proposes to control the supply of private property. Anytime the government controls or tries to control the supply of private property, particularly real estate, you can run asunder of the Constitution, especially if you do it under vague and subjective reasons. And I submit to you, this ordinance is an anti-apartment ordinance disguised as some type of development control ordinance. I think the better opportunity for you in your discretion is to take a surgical knife and place this ordinance exactly where you want it in the city on parcels which do not have appropriate municipal support, such as stormwater, traffic improvements, rights of way. Clearly the West Shore Gandy area meets that test. Hurricane preparedness, but Ybor City, Seminole Heights, Tampa Palms, do they bear those burdens that are all unique to different portions of the city? I think it's better to go on a parcel by parcel analysis of those properties that are at risk because of these deficiencies in municipal services and downplay those and take the FAR out.
Thank you, Mr. Grandolph. Appreciate it, sir.
But to do it citywide, I think is a serious error and will compromise commerce for the city.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Connie Burton. First, I would say, to the point for clarification, since around 1865 and on, people stopped being owned. I'm just hoping that was just a misstep of your tongue this morning, Councilman, because members of District 5, you was voted to represent our interests. And so the ownership part, in that you would be listening, paying attention to the issues of the community, and moving so respectfully that we would know that we're getting proper representation as opposed to ownership. I would also like to state that it's very troubling to see this morning as well that even though you've had tremendous amount of workshops talking about the scorecard of Tampa and the way in which we can advance all to move forward, that Councilman Carson, you wasn't able to advance this morning. From Councilman Gould received a promotion, but what you received this morning is your body not having confidence. And the reason why the confidence is lacking is because of the avocation of making sure that people in East Tampa is treated fairly and that we are not forgotten. That is what it spoke to me this morning. And as we continue to hear people not wanting certain things in their backyard, the East Tampa community continue to ask for the very same things over and over, whether they're sitting up under the tree, standing on the corner, in their private homes, looking for ways in which East Tampa can be brought up to a lifestyle that everyone in East Tampa that want to remain in East Tampa can see value and dignity in their life. We don't see it. 27 schools that's crumbling are failing. Houses that a simple rehab can cure a lot of these issues, and they just keep on getting pushed back because it's not a political favor to make it happen. But we are paying attention, and it is very disappointing to hear former chair talk about how East Tampa is stuck in time, and the moment you can activate it, you won't do it because it's not to your political advantage. We are paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton. Mr. Carlson, I'll recognize you, but then I'm going to say something, but you have the floor, sir.
Just Ms. Burton, thanks for the, I guess, positive comments, but I want to let you know and everybody else know that I'm fine not being chair. I appreciate the nomination, but it's a lot of work and a lot of stress, and I'm sure that Chair Citro will do a great job, and I appreciate the vote of confidence for the vice chair and stepping in when he's not around. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burton.
You need to pass the gavel. Your vice chair isn't here.
Vice chair's not here?
No, you need to.
That'll be Mr. Maniscalco.
No, you can speak.
I can speak, it's public comment. Yeah, well, it's troubling when I hear that things are not happening in District 5. And I don't believe that's to be true. I believe this council has done a lot of things to move District 5. It might not be to the total liking of some.
Name them.
Oh, it's my time, Ms. Burton.
I know it. Name them.
It's my time, Ms. Burton.
Name them.
It may not be the liking to some, but it is a liking to others. But District 5 has a lot of work to be done. As you know, this council knows that from day one, I put together a housing symposium. I've been talking about rehab from day one, trying to make sure that we have a rehab program that's getting ready to be geared up. So the things that you're advocating, Ms. Burton, are being heard. This is government. Sometimes it takes time. Sometimes this council gets upset that we want things moving, but it doesn't move fast enough as we want. Sometimes we get frustrated as well. But I want to assure you and everyone in District 5 that this councilman is working every day for District 5. I'm out there every day, and so are my colleagues when I make these motions to make things happen. So things are moving. They may seem to be moving a little bit slow, but I can assure you they are moving, and we're going to get things moving along in District 5. So I can give you that commitment today. And to those who are listening who may not understand some of the parameters or policy that go on with making decisions as it deals with government money, as it deals with a lot of staffing, but I can assure you, and I thank you for your time and your comment, but we're going to move, and you have a blessed day, Ms. Burton.
I can't be blessed until our community is blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We can hear you.
¿Preguntaron algo? ¿No?
¿Puede empezar a hablar?
Whenever you're ready, just state your name.
Por favor, diga su nombre.
Mi nombre es Antonio Álvarez.
My name is Antonio Alvarez.
This is a review hearing item.
So, okay. Are you here for public comment, ma'am, or are you here for
¿Usted es
a
para comentario
hearing?
público o usted está aquí para una audiencia?
¿Cómo?
¿Usted está aquí por comentario público o para una audiencia?
No, tengo una audiencia por
Yes.
una violación.
Mr. Antonio
No, I have a
Alvarez.
hearing for an infraction.
Okay, we're not ready for that. That's item number 67, ma'am. We're not there yet.
No estamos ahí, no
Mr.
estamos
Chairman?
todavía.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, because I believe staff has notified me that this is a request, I believe, and we can confirm this, to withdraw that. If that is in fact the case, there may be an opportunity to advance that to allow this gentleman to take it up because it is set for 9:30 and we are after 9:30. So if we want to find out if that's their intention, we can hold this item and then advance it rather than have him wait until all the way up to item number 57. But what
Ma'am,
number
is it
it?
your
What
request
number is
to
it?
withdraw this item?
What number is the review hearing? I'm sorry.
Item number 67.
67, I'm sorry. That's 10:30, we're still past 10:30.
Is it your request to withdraw, ma'am?
Usted tiene petición para retirar.
Sí, tengo una petición para retirar una casita de desahogo.
Yes, I have a petition to take out
Y-
the little the tool shed.
Y ¿cómo se llama esto? Yo pedí desde el 2020,
Mr.
pedí
Chairman.
una
Yes, Ms. Shelby.
And so I've asked since 2020,
pedí una ampliación de diseño para un porche que hice detrás de mi casa.
and so I asked for to amplify a design that I had done for a
Ma'am,
porch in the
we're
back
asking,
of my house.
obviously,
We're going to have to wait.
yeah, we're gonna, obviously, we were wondering if you were withdrawing the item. Obviously, you're not withdrawing that, so we're gonna have to wait until we open those hearings up. Shouldn't be too long, but we're gonna have to wait until we open that hearing up for item number 67.
And maybe if the staff from the legal department is listening to this, then maybe they
Okay.
can be able to advise counsel. Thank you.
Good morning, Councilman and Mr. Chair. This is Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. So the petitioner, Mr. Alvarez, is is before City Council regarding item number 67, which is DE 1-21-17 for the property located at 2704 West Kathleen Street. In preparation for this petition for review hearing, it was brought to the city's attention that the petitioner is demolishing or has 95% completed the demolition regarding the structures that are on the property. That is the basis for the design exception. City staff, Andy Mikulski is also, I don't know if he's already logged on to the link for this item, but the city was informed this morning that there's only one wall left remaining that needs to be taken down from the petitioner, but based on the information that was received regarding the status of the sheds and the demolition of the sheds, there's no
Ms. Kamari, what does staff want to do? Because we're not there yet for public hearing, so what does staff want to do with this? We're still in public comment, so that's what we're determining what's going on, because right now we're still in public comment. We're not in for item 57 yet, so we were asking, was this gentleman was trying to withdraw, and we just asked staff for clarification, so if you can let me know what's your preference, so we can move on with our public comment.
He could the petitioner can ask whether or not he wants to withdraw the petition for review hearing.
If that's the case, then, Mr. Chairman, I suggest we hold this till we complete public comment, and if we want to advance this, then we can do so they can not have to stay for the rest of the time.
Thank you, sir. All right.
But the public hearing has not been opened.
Correct. Okay, sir. I think we're going to go ahead and just hold it, Mr. Shelby, at your advice, 67, until we open those public hearings and continue with public comment.
You can advance it again, even ahead of the second readings, if that's council's pleasure. It's after 9:30. It's after 10:30. But it's not appropriate to resolve this issue now during public comment.
Right. Ma'am, after public comments, we'll decide. We're going to open it up and we'll bring him back first. But at this time, we're going to continue with public comment.
Shortly, I would think.
Yeah, it's going to be very shortly.
You want me to relate it to him in his language?
Pardon me, sir?
You want me to relate it to him?
Yes, sir, Mr. Miranda, if you would, sir.
He's leaving now, so I think they got it. Señora y señor, el jefe del concilio dice que cuando acabamos con el público, la conversación general, entonces vamos a recibir el número suyo, que es el 67, 6 con 7. Así que unos minutos los vamos a llamar a ustedes, ¿ok?
Okay, thank you.
Ok, gracias.
Thank you for your leadership, Mr. Miranda. We'll continue with public comment. How many more do we have down there?
No more speakers at this time.
Thank you, sir. We have 10 holding. We'll go ahead and hear those. Thank you, Deputy Clerk.
Good morning. The first speaker is going to be Andrew Moore. Andrew, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak today, Council. Congratulations on your newly elected offices. I'm concerned. I represent the Bowman Heights District. I live at 1901 West Aileen Street in Bowman Heights, and I'm the Vice President of the Civic Association there. We are concerned about this new, and we are in support of this agenda item 77. It's allowing TPD to go ahead and ticket some infractions that they see with commercial equipment and commercial vehicles parking in a neighborhood. For 3 years, our neighborhood has lobbied city staff, city council, city attorney's office to stop this commercial parking that keeps happening in our neighborhood. And for 3 years, we were told, that city staff can't, or code enforcement can't enforce on these issues. And then in today's agenda item, I read the report from the city attorney, and it says that, that the city's always been able to enforce on this. And I'm concerned that even if we allow Tampa PD to ticket these, that we're going to get a lackadaisical response from both code enforcement and Tampa PD to enforce on this. I also want to point out that, that the code is very clear that it has to be when commercial vehicles come into a neighborhood, they have to be doing work on the same residential lot. the operator of the vehicle either has to be at a job site or at their home. And it's not appropriate for these commercial vehicles to just park in our neighborhood and to use our neighborhood as public parking for their businesses. Because they're neither at a job site nor are they at an operator of the vehicle's home. And I'm concerned about the enforcement of this. I do want the council to pass this ordinance, and I'm in favor of it. Our neighborhood is in favor of it. We're just concerned, we don't want to just be that code enforcement is passing the buck to CPD, and it goes down another rabbit hole of non-enforcement. We met with Osea Wynn in the past. Osea Wynn is aware of our issues. We have reached out to her several times and heard no response from her on these issues. We'd like Osea, as a representative for neighborhoods, to reach back out to us and to continue to work with our neighborhood so that it could be properly enforced on these with this commercial parking happening in our neighborhood. Council, thank you very much for your time today. And you may remember I sent you all an email a couple of weeks ago that showed pictures of this enforcement happening in our neighborhood where we were having commercial vehicles. If that refreshes your memory, please look at those emails again, and you can see all of the pictures in there where we get commercial vehicles parking in our neighborhood. They are not at a job site, and they are not at the operator's home, which are clearly spelled out in the definitions. Thank you again for your time, and we appreciate you hearing our issue.
Thank you.
The next speaker is going to be Jean Strohmeyer. Jean, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Jean, are you on the line?
Let's go to the next caller and then we'll come back.
The next speaker is going to be Carol Ann Bennett. Carol, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of South Tampa. First, I want to commend Mr. Maniscalco on the excellent job he did under the year from hell, frankly. And I also want to say that Mr. Goods, I didn't know you before you were elected. I had no idea really what to expect from you. But you have proven through your voting record that you are unashamedly and adamantly pro-neighborhood, and that the safety of the residents of the city of Tampa is your #1 concern, and I'm very happy that you're going to be the chair, and you certainly deserve the position. I'm speaking on item number 8. I do not want it delayed. This has been going on and on and on, and it needs to be resolved today. And frankly, the whole situation with the FAR is just been completely exaggerated, in my opinion, and misrepresented. This only affects a narrow slice of properties. It only affects rezoning. If they already have the zoning they need, they just pull the permits. It only affects if it's single use and not mixed use. The highlighted area that Mr. Michelini showed you isn't really the whole picture, because so many of those properties would not be actually affected. In addition, Abby Feely testified that the FAR is not being used as it was intended. It was intended for non-residential projects. The bonus density is for residential projects. And none of these developers have mentioned to you the fact that they can still get the excess density they want as long as they use bonus density. The problem is, the bonus for them is that bonus density requires them to provide the city with 3 amenities, and that's going to cost them some money. And so, as Abby stated, they're trying to do an end run around providing these amenities and get the bonus density for free. So there's a lot of disingenuous objection here. You know, this is not everything we wanted. It's, like I said, it's much ado about nothing. And I believe the mayor supports it. There's been back and forth about pending ordinance and ordinance different legalese, but it's a rose by any other name. And we want it, even though it's far short of what we really need. We have a property soon that is has the potential of putting 4,200 apartment units if they use FAR. That is more than doubling the current population of multifamily units in that small 4.5 acre area. So the FAR does have an effect, and it's being misused. I ask you to please approve this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go back to Jean Strawmeyer. Jean, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Ms. Strohmeyer, please unmute yourself. You're self-muted.
All right, let's go to number 4, and we'll try to go back to Ms. Strohmeyer toward the end.
The next speaker is going to be Stephanie Pointer. Stephanie, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Jean's out there. I don't know what the problem is. It must be a technical issue, but she knows, and she's trying to get on. Good morning, gentlemen. Congratulations on your new positions within the Tampa City Council. I ask you to indulge me for just a minute with your ink pens. I have a broken leg, and it's just too much for me to come down this early in the morning. I'm not able to put the visual on paper for you, so just for a second. SOG, west of Dale Mabry, is approximately 4.5 square miles. Write this down. This is the important part. Single family residences, 4,350. Apartments since 2016, 4,027. 11/14/19 was my first appearance with you for my community, 538 days ago. From 2016 until 11/14/2019, there were 2,748 apartments approved in our 4.5 square mile area dead end of SOG. That's 2.36 apartments per day that have been added to our community. That's 282 square units per square mile. Mind you, there's people who lived here before that. That doesn't include the ones on the future agendas, the ones that the developers don't need to bring in front of you, the ones that haven't been submitted yet. We still have 1,200 that are going to open up this summer. So we don't even know what the ones who were submitted before you guys ever sat in those seats will look like. You tell me what it means for our neighborhood, for our community, what it means to our culture. I have to agree with the developers and the lawyers on this one. We never wanted this for the entire city. We are concerned about SOG. That's the only area that we are experts in. We, according to the rules presented, are the only experts for our community. So I have no idea what the other designations should be for the city. But I want to know why SOG, south of Euclid, whatever you want to call it, South Tampa, can't have its own designation. We are a dead end. We are so unique. We are abutting arguably one of the most important DOD facilities outside of the DC area with 2 4-star commands, which employs 22,000 people. We have commercial and industrial uses that are supplying fuel and chemicals for our water facilities to a large part of our region. We are a main evacuation route for Pinellas County, yet we aren't considered unique enough to be helped with focus on us, not the entire city. The FAR is just a baby step forward, nothing more. It's a gray crayon in a box of 48 crayons that the developers have. They still have a white crayon, a black crayon, in addition to the other 45 colors. The FAR situation only impacts 3 development areas. The FAR situation doesn't impact Mr. Citro's beloved mixed use. The FAR situation doesn't take the developer's ability to use bonus density. The FAR situation is so small that we don't even like it, but we have to start somewhere. Please vote yes on item number 8. And also, I very
Thank you, Ms.
highly
Porter.
support the public safety impact fee.
Thank you, Ms.
Number
Porter.
74. Thank you.
The next speaker is going to be Sean Brown. Sean, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, Councilman. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Is that a yes? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. First off, I want to thank Councilman Maniscalco for your leadership last year. As Caroline said, it was a year from hell. And Councilman Goods, congratulations on being elected chairman. Definitely well-deserving, and it has been a pleasure to get to know you during this time as we talk about various issues. Certainly I'm speaking on item number 8, and first off, I do agree with the other Stephanie and Carol Ann in that we do not want to see a delay. We want this issue settled now. It's been far too long in the making. That being said, on April 12th, there was a memo that came in from John Bennett prior to the April 15 meeting, and in that memo, it says that, you know, in an abundance of caution, it is recommended that the City Council formally adopt the attached interim development control ordinance. And so, you know, the fact is that the city, you know, the city is for this. You know, the city has recognized the problem. Abby Feely testified on April 15th that, you know, FAR is being abused. She referenced a project that is out there that's trying to go from a CMU 35 units per acre to looking at over 100 units per acre. Again, and for us down south of Gandy, you know, we've got a potential 36-acre property that has been sold to a developer that they could put in over almost 4,500 multifamily apartments. They could put 4,500 apartments if they use the FAR under the current guidelines. Look, that's a problem. And so it needs to be addressed. It's time to close a loophole that developers have been able to use for free. That's the fact. The fact is they've been able to use this for free. Closing the loophole is going to cost them money. I get it. No one likes to spend more. No one likes to lose money. Or in their case, they won't lose money, but they're just got to shell out a little bit more. But, you know, at the end of the day, Tampa and the citizens deserve proper investment. It deserves a right to have mixed use. And the thing is, they can use FAR if they do mixed use. They can use FAR if they pay extra for bonus density. They can use it. It's not going away. It's not stopping development. This isn't a moratorium. No development's going to get stopped. The fact is that, you know, developers are worried about losing a little bit extra money. That's all. And that's just not fair. The city deserves more, and if these developers want to truly partner with us, then they should be required to invest and listen to the residents and do it smartly and safely. And all of you should be in that as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. By the way, I do agree with the impact fees.
Thank you.
Item number 74. So thank you.
Next speaker is going to be David Mechanic. David, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, council members, my name is David Mechanic. I'm here on behalf of Viper Ventures, which is a property owner on Rattlesnake Point, which is south of Gandy Boulevard. I would just like to point out, I'll try to be brief because we've discussed these issues before, but there is simply no finding of an immediate need to implement these regulations on an emergency basis or on an immediate basis. City Council adopts new regulations all the time, but it is rare, if ever, that council imposes those regulations on a short-term basis before you go through the amendment process. I think it's a very concerning precedent for you to implement regulations before you've gone through the amendment process. And I would also like to point out that the regulation that is being proposed to go into effect on June 1st hasn't had the first hearing before the Planning Commission or City Council, and yet the regulations that you intend to impose on June 1st is the same language. Who is to know whether or not that language will be the same when you bring it through the plan amendment process. The whole point of having hearings for a plan amendment is to hear from the public and to get input, and it's quite likely that you'll be making changes to that language. So why would you impose a regulation on June 1st when you haven't gone through any process to consider these amendments? And I would just respectfully suggest that while we have no concern about initiating the plan amendment, we do have concerns with the idea of putting this in effect on June 1st. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is going to be Randy Cohen. Randy, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself. You have 3 minutes to speak.
I am unmuted. I would like to share a screen if I could to provide an exhibit. Okay, is that?
We're just audio. We're just audio. I don't know how you do an exhibit.
Thank you.
We can't show our visuals, do but a comment. Mr. Shelby?
Well, not remotely, generally, Council. But I don't know, is he logged in, Madam Clerk? On GoToMeeting? On video?
I'm seeing his exhibit, but I don't
Is he logged in on video on GoToMeeting? Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Are you able to see the screen? Hello?
Yeah, we
Yes, go ahead, Red.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. This is a exhibit that was prepared for the by the Planning Commission on behalf of a request from the West Shore Alliance. The colors you see, the purple, the pink, and the red are all of the land use designated parcels that would be affected by the moratorium. I'd like to point out that this includes all of Kennedy Boulevard. I'll do the east-west and the north-south. All of Kennedy Boulevard, a good deal of Waters Avenue, all of Bush Boulevard, a good deal of Fowler Avenue, a good deal of Bush Boulevard. I already said that. North-south, 40th Street, Nebraska Avenue, Florida Avenue, Armenia, great portions of Dale Mabry Highway. Within these roads, these are basically all of the primary transit corridors that the city has adopted and has thought through the comp plan, to increase densities in these areas to support transit. The moratorium as it's proposed would result in any parcel being rezoned on any of these corridors to be reduced in its development entitlement by 15% to up to 50% if it were a residential project. I think that kind of flies in the face of the comprehensive plan and is inconsistent. I'd like to point out that this action would also affect New Tampa. This is the core of New Tampa at Bruce B. Downs Boulevard and I-75. It would restrict such development in that area. Moving down to this area, you can see that virtually all of Ybor City, north of or south of 8th Avenue, would be affected by this moratorium, as would Rocky Point out in this area, which is virtually all affected by this moratorium. We also have the fact that, as we've indicated before, the two of the designated areas for development in the comprehensive plan, being the USF area and the West Shore area, are substantially impacted by this proposed moratorium. So I would respectfully request that, as proposed, there's a number of incidental impacts associated with this particular moratorium proposal. So I would hope that this is continued and that it is further worked, and that if the focus is south of Gandy or somewhere in that area, that this moratorium be limited to that geographic area rather than being a shotgun approach, which affects numerous parcels in the city of Tampa and substantial impacts that have never been evaluated to my knowledge. And that's the comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is going to be Elise Batsil. Elise, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
go to number 9 and we'll circle back.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, sure.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I was muted by the organizer. This is Elise Spatzel, Stearns Weaver Miller, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to speak on agenda item number 8. The moratorium before you started as an attempt to address perceived problems such as traffic and other issues south of Gandy. Many of us encouraged council very early in the process to let staff conduct studies, actual studies, to come up with data to form proper resolutions to address those issues. But this council directed the legal department to come back to council with a moratorium. And in a way, we have all been spinning our wheels ever since. The city attorney's office has no choice but to follow your instructions and to provide you with a legally defensible ordinance. So the SOG issue has now morphed into a citywide moratorium with significant unintended consequences. As Mr. Cohen already stated, the ordinance before you would discourage development in the very areas that we want to encourage development, along major intersections and along transit corridors. I would also discourage council from simply continuing this item for 2 weeks. I would encourage you to vote on the citywide moratorium up or down today. If it doesn't pass and staff comes back to you with a south of Gandy solution, you can consider that ordinance at that time. But it's really important. You have to give staff time to conduct actual studies and pull actual data to determine how to properly address the SOG issues. How can staff come up with solutions for this council until they actually do the studies that are necessary? And I feel fairly confident that they're spending most of their time dealing with the multiple versions of the moratorium, so they can't get to the real work that they need to do to really come up with solutions for the people south of Gandy. And that's how this all started. For example, you can't propose a traffic solution until a new signalization study is done at the Gandy overpass now that it is open. Please allow staff the tools and the time to do their job. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be back before this council talking about the unintended consequences of another proposal that aren't based on actual data and actual studies. I encourage you to vote no today on the citywide moratorium and to work with staff to come back with a well-studied proposal that actually addresses all of the problems and issues that have been spoken about over and over by the community south of Gandy. Thank you.
Next speaker is going to be Jacob Kramer. Jacob, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Council. This is Jake Kramer at Stearns Weaver Miller. I appreciate your time this morning. I won't rehash what the previous speakers have had to say on the moratorium. I feel similarly to many of them. Interestingly enough, I found myself in agreement with many of the South of Gandy community members that you heard from, who, from what I heard, felt like and agreed a decision needed to be made today. It's time to vote up or down on this bad proposal. This ordinance, I also agree with the South of Gandy community that this proposal doesn't recognize what makes South Tampa and South of Gandy so special. It's not fair to the rest of the city that issues that we're working through in one part of the city are now going to restrict the opportunities for the entire city. Mr. Cohen's map was really important because, you know, we hear a lot and we talk a lot about transit in this community, but I can promise you we will never get real transit in this community if we don't support density. We have to put on our big boy pants as a city and believe in growth, and density will actually help us get there. It's hard and there will be growing pains, but this is not the right way to get there. So I appreciate your time and all you do for the city. Chairman, congratulations on your election today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next speaker is going to be Jennifer Motzinger. Jennifer, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Good morning. Jennifer Motzinger with the Tampa Bay Builders Association, representing those who build the American dream of home ownership. You know, whenever communities experience growth, it's always a mixed bag. We've seen the area of south of Gandy around West Shore evolve very quickly. And although that is typical, it can be frustrating, especially for those who live in that area. I agree with a lot of the speakers that more attention can be focused on bringing transportation and other infrastructure improvements online. However, I again must oppose any type of moratorium. A moratorium just simply signals to many segments of our community and society that we can't handle growth. And I don't think that's true. It's a very important discussion, and I'm glad that you're considering all the perspectives before taking final action. And I do appreciate your time this morning and hope you are all very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last speaker is going to be Jean Strawmeyer. Jean, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, can you hear me this time?
We can hear you.
Oh, God, thank God. Okay, before I begin, I want to also congratulate Councilman Goods and your appointment, and to thank Mr. Maniscalco for his service as chair, and to clarify that the FAR is a privilege and not a right. And our May 14th meeting is not with the mayor, and it only deals with evacuation and traffic. I just wanted to clarify those matters, and I am ready to go. Oh, my name is Jean Strohmeyer, and I am president of Interbay South of Gandy Civic Association. Here about number item 8. As a citizen, I thought that our meeting on 3/26, we had an agreement as a result of our summit or meeting with approximately 29 people, including our great SOG neighborhood leaders, city attorneys, Chief of Staff Bennett, as well as Mayor Castor, and our builder and chief developer, the infamous John Lum, who has been on the opposing side of the table since day one, due to our differences in goals. Family and neighborhoods versus profits. Nothing against profits, but it's good. It's not good while beating citizens into submission. Our goal has always been stop overbuilding SOG with all the rezoning approvals for mega apartment complexes south of Gandy. Really just to pause to let the dust settle. That's it. We were told that this was not legal because we could not single out ourselves and not other parts of the city. It makes no sense. We are the same body but different limbs. Hillsborough County did it and so did other places. What's the difference? As of Tuesday, we thought we had an agreement, and we only reason to speak today was to tell our city leaders a job well done. Thank you. Then on Wednesday, we found out we didn't have a deal. We were dumbfounded and knew we were on some crazy train. As an amateur and ignorant person in land and use zoning, it appears that ultimately there are just two different ways to achieve the same goal that we're working on. Number one is the motion submitted by Mr. Dingfelder, who asked on our behalf for a moratorium, which turned into a temporary elimination of FAR in 4 land use studies. That would take effect June 1st, with a permanent solution being taken underway. This would presumably catch any stray requests of zoning early on. Number 2, we have the city's version, which is also considered will be a permanent solution by the process of changing the comp plan to eliminate FAR starting June 1st, but using the pending ordinance doctrine. It's a bit different. Either way, our goals have always been our neighborhood, south of Gandy, not citywide elimination of FAR, but other persistent and systemic problems stemming back from 2007 with low quality roads, lack of grocery stores, gas stations, retails, and jobs, but most importantly, our safety and evacuation during emergencies. The recent presentation by Sean College entitled CHA Best Practices showed that with the current population, people would drown in their cars while trying to evacuate during a mere Category 1 hurricane storm surge. Gentlemen, it is time to vote for or against our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that conclude public comment?
Yes, Chair, that does conclude general public comments for today's agenda.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I just been informed Mr. Shelby, the gentleman that came earlier for item 67 for the hearing, they're going to move to withdraw it, my understanding, and the attorney has a flight to be out at 12.
The interpreter.
The interpreter. So I'd like to just open the hearings up. We'll immediately close it just after we hear 67, then we'll go back to item number 8.
Move to open the 10:30 hearings, I believe.
We'll open up
You could do the 9:30 and 10:30 at this point, if you wish.
Move to open all the hearings then.
Again, motion made by Mr. Maniscalco, second Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. We'll hear item number 67. Ms. Kamari, this is.
Yes, if we can, Mr. Chairman, before you begin, I'd like to see if we can get the gentleman and the interpreter back.
All right. Anybody in the lobby down there on the second floor
floor
can get him back? Second floor?
And if we can begin, Mr. Chairman, by swearing the interpreter to swear from Spanish to English,
Madam
English to
Clerk.
Spanish, please, Madam Clerk.
Is he on the screen?
You ready?
Is he on? I can't
He's on.
see.
Yes, he's on. He's
Okay,
on.
thank
Yeah.
you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Juro decir la verdad, nada más que la verdad.
I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
The interpreter needs to be sworn in as well.
Yes.
Please swear or affirm that the translation that you're about to provide is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And if we could have their names, please, for the record.
Nicole Highland, Heiland, certified court interpreter. Su nombre para el acta.
El nombre Antonio Álvarez.
My name, Antonio Alvarez.
Thank you, and I believe there's a representative from the legal department. If she can, I believe she's online.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and members of council. My name is Kamaria Pettis-Nackel from the City Attorney's Office. We're here to address the petition for review regarding item number 67, which is DE1-21-17 for the property located at 2704 West Kathleen Street. As previously stated, the petitioner is Mr. Alvarez, and it's my understanding that with the interpreter, he is going to request to withdraw the petition for review.
Sí, he venido a retirar la petición.
Yes, I've come to withdraw my petition.
Motion to withdraw?
All right. If we can, can we see him online? I don't see him. If we can, switch.
Question on the motion.
Mr. Defoe, you're recognized.
Yes, just so everybody's on the same page, does he want it withdrawn completely, or is he looking to continue it?
No, retirarla completamente.
No, to completely withdraw it.
All right, motion to withdraw it then.
Okay,
Motion on the floor.
what you do is motion to close then.
Move to close the public hearing?
Does the city have any objection to this? I don't know.
That's a very fair question, Mr. Miranda. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Kamaria Pettis-Nackel again from the City Attorney's Office. No, Mr. Councilman, the city does not object to the petitioner withdrawing the petition for review.
Can I ask one question of the city?
You're recognized, Mr. Miranda.
Upon examination of this address at 2704 West Kathleen, we're just talking about improper buildings being built without a permit. There was nothing concerning rental property, anything of that nature?
That is correct. This is only regarding structure sheds that are on the property that were built without a permit.
Does the city, when these cases come up, and I'm not specifically asking this question on this address, do you ask those questions to the individuals that are coming before us? Do they have any rental property that's illegal?
Mr. Councilman, that to my knowledge, I'm not sure if that, I'm not aware if that question is asked of the petitioners when they're coming forward with the design exception.
Thank you.
A motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And a motion then to accept the withdrawal by the petitioner, please?
Motion to accept the withdrawal as proposed by or requested by the petitioner.
Motion by Mr. Maniscalco, second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've closed the hearings. We'll go back to item number 8.
Could I make my motion to?
I believe.
All right, let's go. Let's go. I guess let's hear from staff, and then we can go into discussion and any motion that need to be made.
Okay, I want to make the motion to continue. So.
Okay.
Chairman Goode.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. This is Carol Post, Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. I'd like to speak to the continuance. I'd first like to also congratulate you on your appointment and all of the council members on their respective appointments. And of course, Chair Maniscalco, thank you for your leadership of the past year. So as I said, I'd like to speak to the request for continuance of the item first. We do have staff members available as well to speak to the substance of the item, should it not be continued. So the matter that's before you and which has been addressed, I think all of you have recognized, it's actually before council. It's been before council 6 times since December 4th. Today is the 7th time that this matter has come before council in one form or another. Throughout this time, there were many discussions between city staff with South of Gandy stakeholders, residents. We also met with developers many times. And on March 26th, one of those times, it was an all-hands type meeting. I know that you heard others refer to it as the town hall meeting. Mayor Castor convened that. Council Chair Goods, I think somewhat at your suggestion at one point in March. At the discussion on March 26th, that discussion actually resulted in an alternate approach, which would be a new permanent solution to the FAR issue instead of doing a moratorium. That is the outcome of that meeting that day. And that proposal, as an alternative to a moratorium, was presented to council on April 1st. On April 1st, staff presented and recommended, with the mayor's support, that alternative solution, which was to initiate a comprehensive plan amendment to permanently address the FAR issue. On that day, council unanimously adopted the resolution in support of that, and that process is now underway. That's in motion, and the comp plan amendment is in process with the planning commission. But also on that day, after adoption of that comp plan resolution, Councilman Dingfelder again asked staff to bring forward the an interim development control ordinance, which, as we've heard lots of people refer to, the non-moratorium moratorium. I do want to emphasize that that motion is and remains separate and apart from the comp plan amendment resolution. It was adopted that day and remains underway. So on April 15th, in response to the interim development control ordinance request, staff returned to council with a draft of that ordinance for discussion, and council that day voted for staff to bring it back in format for first reading, which is what brings us to today. That ordinance has been presented to council as requested. I'd like to note, though, that there are no further discussions planned with the community or any other stakeholders, either planned or anticipated, on this particular matter. I believe the meeting that Councilman Carlson referred to earlier this morning is a staff and a community meeting, which is a follow-up that was discussed during the March town hall. At that town hall meeting, the mayor committed for staff to have continuous follow-ups on a number of related matters concerning, I think you heard Jean talk about, transportation planning, general growth management, and evacuation response. And as such, we scheduled those meetings, and those are being planned. The one in question is actually scheduled for April 15th, next week, not tomorrow. And to reiterate that that is not a meeting to discuss the moratorium or any other solutions related to interim development control. So to conclude, we are not in support of a continuance for this matter today. We prefer to conclude the matter with certainty, one way or another, today. We do believe that plan we agreed to with the community and with council's support to initiate the comprehensive plan amendment serves as our strategic and inclusive approach to city planning, and that it's the appropriate method to address the FAR issue. And should be noted that it is just one of many efforts that are underway to address related growth management matters around our city. I'd be happy to take any questions or speak from that. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, this is a hot topic. Before we take any motions, I want to go with discussions first, and if any motions, after discussion, we'll deal with any motions. So I think Mr. Carlson was first. I saw his hand. Then Mr. Dingfelder. I think Mr. Citro, did you have questions, sir? And then Mr. Citro, and after that, we'll go. Mr. Vieira.
Yeah, just in terms of comments, there as Ms. Post just said, there are ongoing conversations, and although the meeting next Friday may have been set up for some other purpose, I'm certain that the SOG leaders will talk about these issues. Just to correct the record, we said, I think pretty adamantly, we did not want a moratorium, whatever the legal term is. This is. We said we didn't want a moratorium. The original concept of moratorium we rejected, and so then staff came back with this narrow view, and then somebody in the community is pushing the idea of moratorium, and it appears to be, from the comment this morning, the development community that's doing it. But yet it's the development community that's saying we don't want the word moratorium to get out because the larger investment community in the country is not going to want to invest in Tampa because of it. So the easy solution is stop talking about it. If you want to scare investors off, put a label on something that isn't accurate or isn't exactly accurate. Number two, the South of Gandy leaders who I've met with many times, and I'm sure you all do, I talk to them almost daily, they never asked for a citywide thing. They even said again this morning they don't want a citywide solution. Yes, we have two different issues that are coming up. One is the long-term comprehensive plan amendment, but this one is an ordinance that puts it into effect immediately. Yes, I think Mr. Dingfelder is the one who made the motion on this, and so technically, yes, it is a request of council, but what council asked for originally and what the community asked for originally was a South of Gandy solution. And this is the proposal that we got. None of us, to my knowledge, have ever said we wanted to take away the FAR bonus. And we also did not necessarily put all the exceptions and everything. That came from staff. The question that I had posed to staff many times over the last year really is what could be the solution? I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a land use lawyer. I talked to a bunch of them. I don't know what the possible solutions are. The community has given us ideas. I talked to land use attorneys who give ideas to us, and I've had 3 or 4 land use attorneys call me in the last 2 days and say there are South of Gandy options. Why is staff not paying attention to them? I had a conversation with legal yesterday, and they said we've looked at them. I don't know what's true and what's not, but there seems to be a South of Gandy solution that's possible that would more directly address the needs of South of Gandy. They're not happy, as they said, with this solution anyway. Their people in the rest of the city are not happy with it. And I think since there's a meeting coming on Friday, we should go ahead and delay it for a couple weeks to look at that. I'm very frustrated because there's a lot of he said, she said around all of this, and it seems to be too political. And I'm also concerned about directions I've seen in the last couple of weeks in the relationship between council and staff as becoming more political. And I asked Chief of Staff if we could go back to the collegial environment. Maybe you all have not sensed this, but this is something that City Council did not propose. We may end up approving it today, but it's what we asked for and what the community asked for is a South of Gandy solution that will fix the South of Gandy problems. Thank you.
Ms. Dingfelder, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Carlson. A good analysis of where we've been. I don't necessarily agree with Ms. Post in terms of how we got where we are today, but I'm not going to, it's all hindsight and water under the bridge, and I'm not going to go there. We are where we are. I do agree with what Mr. Carlson said, that this holistic citywide approach is not necessarily what council had asked for. This is where we've been sort of pushed in a direction, and I've called it a poison pill, because I think it is a poison pill that's been given to us. And that was proven to me today when developers say, go ahead and vote it up or down. Well, guess what? They're counting heads. We're not allowed to count heads, but they're counting heads, and they've counted heads. They've made their phone calls around this dais. Okay, they don't call me because they know where I stand. But they've called around this dais and they've counted heads. All right, but that's irrelevant. What's more relevant is what I've given you today. And I provided this document to all council members, to Mr. Shelby. The city attorney's office received it this morning via Mr. Gowert, and the clerk has a copy. And what this one-page document speaks to is this is directly out of our comprehensive plan. And I hope everybody got a copy of it and has looked at it. And specifically, I look over to the right-hand side in the yellow area, and it says the following road corridors have a series of mixed uses along them. And then it speaks to all those highways and major roads throughout our city that Randy Cohn spoke to. Dale Mabry, Gandy, Armenia, Howard, Florida, Nebraska, MLK, Columbus, 40th, 50th, Adamo, part of Adamo, Bush Boulevard, Hillsborough, Fowler, Fletcher, Bruceby Downs, Kennedy, West Shore north of Kennedy Boulevard. And then the next line is critical. These roadways are transit emphasis corridors and are suitable for redevelopment and intensification. That's what the use of the FAR is. The use of the FAR is intensification of development. So why did I give you this? Okay, I gave you this so we can modify the ordinance, and I gave you a copy of the ordinance, so we can modify the ordinance and have it brought back to us this afternoon to exclude any property that is within walking distance, and walking distance has been defined as 1/4 mile, okay, 1/4 mile walking, the walking path from 1/4 mile away from any of these transit emphasis corridors. I didn't come up with this by myself last night. I called one of our city planners and we talked about it. I said, what can we do to make this, to focus this on where it needs to be focused? Okay, this still leaves some opportunity actually south of Gandy, including Dale Mabry Highway. Possibility, if there's some property that wants to come in for rezoning within a 1/4 mile walking distance on either side of Dale Mabry Highway all the way down to McDill Air Force Base, so be it. But you know what? Dale Mabry Highway and Gandy Boulevard are both major roads, and Gandy has improved even more so. They're major roads, and as one of the attorneys spoke to, eventually we're going to have major transit on all of these roads. So I agree, as much as I hate to say it, I agree with my fellow attorneys who called in today and said we shouldn't be, throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But I also agree that development needs to be in the appropriate place, and especially intensive development. Intensive development using this FAR should not be used in inappropriate places. So with that, Mr. Chairman, whenever you get around to asking for a motion, and Bill, I think this is consistent with where you're going, at least I hope so, because this will limit the proposed interim development control ordinance significantly. This will take away the impact of this ordinance on all of these roads that are called transit emphasis corridors. So that's where I'm headed. I don't want to belabor this beyond today. I would ask us to do a motion to direct legal to incorporate this idea in this ordinance and vote that up or down this afternoon.
Ms. Citro, you recognize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To Councilman Carlson's point, when this first came out, the two reasons that were given was because of high coastal hazard and because of evacuation timing. At that point, other parts of the city, such as Palmetto, said, well, what about us? Those two situations, high coastal hazard, evacuation time, have to do with several parts of our city. So we can't just carve out one area. Mr. Goers is going to be bringing to us a study that we got a grant on, hopefully within the next 8 months. This study will reveal exactly what this ordinance may or may not need to be done in this city. I would prefer to wait on that report coming back. This ordinance will take away one of the greatest strengths that this city council has, and that's to hear the burden of proof case by case by case by case. I want to hear what that report has to say. Then we can move forward. I cannot support this ordinance today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that, sir. You know, a lot of different things going back and forth. I think we have a lot of different choices that we have to answer as members of council, which is, you know, do we support a moratorium or an equivalent? I've made my position known on that. Do we support the code amendment process? I think that we all do. I know that I certainly do, and that's something that I've promised to the communities from day one. And do we support something that has immediate implementation of that code amendment process that seemed to have at least gotten to first base from City Council last time 4-3, and whatnot. You know, I support the code amendment process, which is a deliberative process and whatnot that takes us into the direction that we want for neighborhoods, but that is deliberative and allows us to consider adequately and with great measured care all of the steps that can go and what are the benefits of it, what's the detrimental effects of it. Like I've said before, I respectfully oppose a moratorium. I just don't think that sends the right message on the city of Tampa. And I think that there's a better way to go, as I've said many, many times before. We have the budget process, infrastructure, and a little coin that has Abraham Lincoln on it, the penny sales tax. In 2018, we supported All for Transportation. I was proud to endorse that, and I hope that in 2022 we can get that back on the ballot. There is no greater friend to having good progress for communities like south of Gandy and many other communities than mass transit and having those robust transportation-related investments that this would do. With regards to our friend Councilman Carlson's motion, my position is that on this narrowly tailored issue, we should see where we stand on it today. If it goes forward, fine. If not, but having another compromise, whether Councilman Carlson leads it or Councilman Dingfelder leads it, I don't think really has any relationship to whether or not we want to support the ordinance for implementation on June 1st as we see it today. So just my thoughts on it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Mr. Brandon, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all the conversation I've heard. I don't have an answer as to why it was brought up the way it was. I have an idea, and this is the rationale that I come up with. I would imagine that if it's done not on a citywide basis, just to a localized area, that may be considered by the lawyers to be not the right way or unconstitutional way of doing it. I'm just saying that's what I think. Haven't talked to none of them regarding it. And I heard also different individuals say that for my bread and butter, I haven't spoken to anyone on this side or this side. Not the development community and not the good people in South Tampa. If somebody wants to say it, God bless them. In fact, you don't see no cell phone with me. I don't text anybody when I'm in the meeting, and nobody texts me, period. And I've done that my whole life. One day I made a mistake when I was chairman years ago, and I'd be damned if I didn't have the phone on me. And you know what? It rang. But if I didn't have the phone on me, it could have rang all it wanted. So it was my mistake for bringing the phone in. I always tell my grandkids this: if you drink, you're liable to get a DUI. If you don't drink, you're never going to get a DUI. And guess what? Not only you're not going to get a DUI, you're never going to be an alcoholic. But it's your choice. Do what you want. I don't tell them not to drink. So what I'm doing now is trying to understand the logistics of a very complex situation. Do we have a problem there? Yes. Is the traffic tough? Yes. However, how did we get here? Our good Councilman Vieira talked about transportation. Really? There is no transportation. Why? Because every time there's an expressway built and you have a problem, the next thing they do is they expand it. A year later, that is extinct. So they have spent hundreds of millions and not billions of dollars instead of expanding the expressways that go into transportation the right way. I'm not here to talk about the good people in the Department of Transportation, but if we had got that money and put it in trains and buses, we may not be in the situation we're in today. In the 50s, we had 50-some miles of streetcars. You know how many we got now? None. Other than the streetcar that we put in under the Greco administration. It went about 11 miles, I think. And what it is, not 11 miles, excuse me. It went from downtown all the way around Channel Side into Ybor City and back. How do we solve this problem? It solves by working out and having a complex situation work within the guidelines of what we have. The Planning Commission got to be involved. The citizens have to be involved. But to say today, to go and do this and somebody does something, how are you going to solve this problem where you say, I'm going to have no construction in this area, not because of what we know, but because of the process that we're in that we don't know. So there's got to be documentation to make sure that this thing doesn't bite the dust. I'm not against the people in South Tampa, and I'm not against anyone who brought this up. There has to be a concentrated effort within the guidelines of the law. Not what I want, what the law says I can do. And these are the things that are very troubling when you run for office and sit down and say, I'm going to do whatever I can to help. However, you are limited in what you can do, what you want to help, because there's a lot of situations that have never been discussed until you have a situation that comes like it is today. So you have people on both sides, not against each other, but against trying to solve a problem that they can't solve themselves. Why do you have development? I've heard people say, developers don't build a damn thing unless it's needed. Think of what I just said. If the city of Tampa wasn't growing, would you have tall buildings? I don't think so. If the city of Tampa was in a standstill, would you have the need for transportation? I don't think so. Well, you need transportation, and it's not that I want to develop, it's not that the city wants to develop, but people are coming here. Of my 8 grandchildren, 6 have graduated from college so far. All 6 of them have come back to Tampa. I need 2 more, and I'm praying they stay here. You couldn't do that 15, 20 years ago because there was no opportunity.
I'm going to give Mr. Miranda deference.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stop right now.
Mr. Maniscalco, did you want to chime in on this conversation?
No. Thank you very much. I'm just listening.
Mr. Shelby, I'm going to make a few comments, but it's going on 12 o'clock, and CTTV needs to do their thing, and we have people on the second floor as well, so we may need to break for lunch at 12, gentlemen. I know it's difficult, but we want to try to move this along. We have a busy agenda today. But let me just say this in reference to this item. And this is the old policeman talking. You know, what has gotten what I call the infection in the process is money. Money, power, politics. I don't know where the word moratorium, I saw that one day in the paper. I don't know why the paper said moratorium, because this board has never said, after we came back to make some decisions, talk about the word moratorium. So Mr. Carlson would be right. So here comes that infection. Wherever it came from, now we've got everybody talking, we're going to stop the growth and development. The developers, people are not going to come here. They're not going to spend money to do this and that, because I told you about those rumors, Mr. Citro. I told you about those rumors. Now you got all this mess going on. That's what it is. Mr. Vieira always talked about offer transportation. But Mr. Vieira, I'm going to be candid with you. Had we had those folks who were fighting for offer transportation compromise for some other individuals, we probably would have that money that everyone's been banking on for decades, you know, and saying, you know, putting all these hopes and dreams on something you ain't got in your pocket. Got to compromise sometimes. That's how it works. But we don't have that money because we couldn't compromise to have offer transportation to start building roads, start doing whatever we need, the potholes, whatever we got going on, because we didn't make compromises. Things had already been established. Other counties had already had that situation. And courts had already ruled what was constitutional and what was not. I look at this situation here. If we were talking about South Allegheny, it was strictly South Allegheny, someone still has yet to tell me, how can Hillsborough County put something in place for a certain area, but we can't do that? It's all land use, and I'm not a land use lawyer. It's still new to me. I'm still learning the land of this with all these different names and codes. But you can't tell me that somebody else could do something who has a higher power than you, but yet we can't do something. I still haven't got an explanation on that. They're the same board as we are, same land use. I mean, I'm sure they get the same type of code, maybe a few more because of the county per se. But you can't tell me that we can't do something. I'm going to be candid with the South of Gandy folks, and I'm going to be candid with developers. Someone's going to be disappointed. We're never going to make it perfect yet. We've already put the first steps to go to the Planning Commission to get the work done. It's going to take us to January, unfortunately, from the calculations. We got to wait on that process. Period. So somebody may be upsetting the balance. But don't tell me the city of Tampa stop growing and no one's going to come here and all this kind of stuff. No, I don't believe that one bit. Everybody wants to come here. So let's stop trying to use our muscle and money to do things. And let's try to work together as a community, development community and the South of Gandy folks. Like I said, someone's going to be disappointed, but let's make that disappointment as less painful as we can. I still say legal should be asking the county, what did they do? How did they do it? But then Mr. Dingfellow, in his great work, has come up, and I've talked to some landlords people, intensify those major corridors. You're right. That's where it should be. You're 100% right. Here it is. Mr. Miranda talked about the rules and codes. Mr. Dingfellow has come up and given it to us. Here it is. We can't argue the point. I mean, it says it here. Until we can come up with an idea that's going to really be suitable to all. Ms. Citro, you're recognized.
One last word from me. The office, legal staff, and other staff, especially Ms. Feely, I'd like to thank them for putting all the hard work into this just to give us the information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think everyone has said their piece. If there's any motions to be put on the table, I will accept them now.
Mr. Carlson had the first motion. It's up to him.
Mr.
If
Carlson?
he wants to go first, but I'll be glad to go second.
It sounds like it'll quickly get denied, but I would like to make a motion to delay this for 2 weeks.
There's been a motion on the floor by Mr. Carlson. Do I have a second? There's been a motion on the floor by Mr. Carlson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
Mr.
I think
Singh,
everybody deserves a vote.
Mr. Dingfellow has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
Well, roll call, Mr. Chubb.
Well, I was going to ask if there's any discussion on the motion.
Okay, I'm sorry about you're right. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm sorry. When and if I may, when Councilman Dingfelder seconded and said everyone deserves a vote, you're the Clarence Darrow of motions, so you'll fight for someone's right to be heard. So thank you.
Any other discussion? I think we'll take a roll call vote on this. Mr. Shelby, it's
Yes,
appropriate.
Vieira.
No.
Dingfelder.
Respectfully, no.
Maniscalco. No. Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
No.
Miranda.
No.
And Goods.
No.
Motion failed with everyone except for Carlson voting no.
Mr. Dingfellow, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as I stated earlier, I provided you 2 documents this morning. One is the ordinance that was in front of us on item 8, and then the other one is specifically, and I want to call this out because Mr. Shelby suggested I do so, specifically Land Use Policy 5.1.9, which in the highlighted yellow areas identifies the transit emphasis corridors. And I read those into the record before, Dale Mabry through West Shore Boulevard, north of Kennedy. I'm specifically making reference to those. And Mr. Miranda, I probably wasn't clear before. What I'm saying here is that the ordinance, I want staff to take a few hours until this afternoon to modify the ordinance for first reading, and the ordinance would not include any projects that are within 1/4 walking distance, and I say walking distance, not as the crow flies, but walking distance, from these major streets, these major roadways, these major transit emphasis corridors that are identified on here. So, and then the flip side is any proposed projects that are within these transit-oriented, transit emphasis corridors could go forward using the FAR as intense development because they are on transit emphasis corridors. But the other side is, let's not encourage development in these far removed places. And it's not just south of Gandy, but there are some other far removed places that are never going to have transit ever. And they don't deserve to use those FAR numbers. And that's the intent of my motion. And if it's not clear, please ask me. And my motion is to ask staff to make a simple addition to the ordinance, which is to exempt any projects within that are called out within that land use policy 5.1.9.
I'll second it since he seconded mine, but can I ask a question real
Mr.
quick?
Dingfelder has made a motion on the floor. Mr. Carlson has seconded. Discussion. Mr. Carlson, you're recognized.
Did you talk to the SOG leaders? Because Gandy, I think they would not like Gandy and Dale Mabry included in this.
I talked to them yesterday generically about trying not to be the whole city, okay? And so then I came up with this idea. I know they're not going to be thrilled about including Gandy and Dale Mabry, but you know what? We can't please everybody all the time. I can't please all the developers' attorneys all the time, and I can't please my good friends SOG all the time.
And I don't see
on every part of it.
I don't see 7th Avenue or anything in am I missing it? Is Ybor in there?
Well, it says Adamo Drive. I think Ybor in some ways is treated differently.
I don't think it's a big arterial. I think that's just, yeah, it's not arterial. These are big arterial roads here.
Yeah, because there's also the request. You know,
I don't even know if you're allowed to use FAR in Ybor, Bill. And staff could clarify that.
There we go. There's Mr. Goers.
So,
Ms. Grimes, you're recognized.
Did you call on me, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
ma'am, you're recognized. I saw your hand.
Thank you. And I think just this discussion alone is, I think, evidence that we're not going to be able to come back in 2 hours and capture what it is that you're discussing and bantering back and forth. It's just not possible, and assure you all that we can prepare a legally defensible interim development control ordinance in that short a period of time. So I think it would be wise to just move forward, up or down on the ordinance that's in front of you today. I think Mr. Dingfelder's points and the points raised by Mr. Cohen are good ones as far as the transit emphasis corridors go, and maybe that's direction that you want to give the Planning Commission with respect to the permanent comp plan amendment that you already have underway, that they look at exempting those areas on a permanent basis from and allow use of the FAR there. I think that's really I think, Mr. Dingfelder, that's something you've always talked about doing, is on a permanent basis, allowing more dense development in the transit emphasis corridor. So I don't think that we're going to be able to accommodate your request and come back in a couple hours with something that's not real clear at this stage.
Mr. Chair?
You recognize, sir.
Okay. I'll respect Ms. Grimes' request for additional time. I'm not very interested in giving anybody an additional year, because the South of Gandy folks and other folks in the community, because it's not just South of Gandy, we've been getting hundreds of emails from folks all across the city on the over-intensification of development in this city. So it's not just SOG. But I will respect Ms. Grimes' request for additional time and sort of piggyback on Mr. Carlson's motion, earlier motion, but with more specificity. That 2 weeks from now, we would request staff to respond and come back with an ordinance that would incorporate what I just said. And I don't think I need to repeat what I said. So instead of my motion to come back, could I finish? Instead of my motion to come back in after lunch, then my motion would be to come back in 2 weeks. And I think 2 weeks is plenty of time for them to include the very simple language that I said, and if they can't do it, I'll do it myself. The very simple language I said modifying this ordinance.
Ms. Grimes?
I have a question. Isn't that the same as just continuing it? I thought that motion was just voted down.
It's continuing it for a specific purpose. Mr. Carlson's motion, I'll respectfully repeat it, was to continue it to allow staff to converse with the neighborhood, et cetera. My motion is much more specific, thank you, Ms. Grimes, with a specific language inclusion to come back for first reading with that language included. And I say if it's good enough, I'd say if it's good enough to recommend it to the Planning Commission for a year from now, then it's good enough to include in our temporary ordinance.
A motion to
I
amend.
don't know. I have to agree. Postponing it for 2 weeks to make this change would resolve everyone's issues. I think that would be a worthwhile endeavor, but happen to agree with Mr. Goods in that, you know, at the end, there's going to be someone that's unhappy with all this. So I know that everyone's trying very hard to please everyone, but I don't know that coming back in 2 weeks with a modified version is going to solve the problem.
We can't, I'll just say one final thing. We can't solve everything. You know, we'd have to go on a parcel by parcel basis across the whole city to try and solve everything. But I also don't want to be as known as a council that does nothing. The council that doesn't respond to these emails that are coming at us right and left. There's 50 emails today alone, okay? 10 of them, there's 10 emails from developer attorneys, but there's 50 emails from real people who have real concerns about the traffic and the evacuation issues facing this community. So with that, I'll restate my motion. If I get a second, if I get a vote, whatever. My motion is to come back 2 weeks from now for first reading with the same exact ordinance, but to make reference to land use policy 5.1.9 and exclude those properties that are within 1/4 mile of the transit emphasis corridors of land use policy 5.1.9.
Ms. Shelby?
And does the seconder of the motion agree with the restatement?
Yes. Yes.
Helen Goods?
Yes, you recognize.
Hi, it's Carol Post, Administrator for Development and Economic Opportunity. I respect that the council and the Councilman Dingfelder is trying to navigate the competing interests. I think we all have been and certainly respect the continued effort. I would just remind the council that we have done this 3 times now in terms of going back to the community, trying to understand everyone's issues and navigate and fine tune the language. And while I agree, never make everyone happy, I feel like spending another 2 weeks, we will likely end up where we started, which is a solution that has perhaps unintended consequences. That seems to be kind of our Achilles heel. Each time we think we have a workable solution, there results in unintended consequences. And I would finally offer that this is not a council that does nothing. The council adopted the resolution on April 1st to proceed rapidly, faster than normal actually, with the comp plan amendment to permanently adjust the FAR, which is what the South of Gandy neighborhood representatives requested us to do during that town hall meeting. And most of the development community that was represented there that day also agreed with it. We do recognize that as just one step of many, but it's an important step. And it is also a step that is a deliberate, measured process that has full-throated community and outreach engagement, public hearings, and feedback so that it can be fine-tuned over time and be as right as you can be. So I just offer that for consideration. Thank you.
Ms. Dingfelder, you recognize.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Post. The reality is we shouldn't be eliminating FAR in these transit emphasis corridors. Those are the areas that we should be encouraging intense growth. Those are the areas up and down Kennedy Boulevard and some of these other places where we should be encouraging the density, and then that way the density doesn't go down where it shouldn't be, out in places that are remote. and cause traffic and evacuation issues and other consequences that we don't want. And Ms. Post, you and I have talked about for almost 2 years now how we should be encouraging density along these transit emphasis corridors. And so I think we're saying the same thing, that in the short term, you're saying it in the long term, because I know over the next year, people, including yourselves, are going to say, you know what, let's eliminate the FAR in some places, but not in other places. And that's what I'm saying, except I'm saying let's do it in the short term too. Because if we don't, these properties are going to come in for rezoning, they're going to stick their camel nose under that tent, and they're going to come in for rezoning now. And that's why you have this type of interim development control ordinance, to prevent that in areas that are inappropriate. And that's what my motion is, and I got a second, and I appreciate it.
Chair, may I just respond to that briefly?
Ms. Post, I'll let you, let me go to Mr. Vieira, then I'll come back to you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I don't mind Ms. Post going first, unless if you want me to go before, but I don't mind.
All right, Ms. Post, go ahead. He's giving you deference. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just to briefly respond, we certainly do agree that there are many areas of the city where intensity and density are both appropriate and desired, and that is our plan as well. But the Planning Commission approach made test that out, and the reason why we do not necessarily support this today is that there are other options. Even with the ultimate long-term solution, the bonus option remains in place. The mixed-use option remains in place. These are all tools that can be used to achieve those densities without FAR. Not suggesting that the Planning Commission changes may not have adaptation and refinement, but with or without them, there remains an array of tools available to the development community and to us as a city to drive density and intensity where we desire it.
Mr. Vieira, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to this proposal that Councilman Dingfelder put forward, that this may be something that I could support down the line. I'd want to look at it further. I see here, for example, Bruce B. Downs being included in here, an area where, tons and tons of building intensification, et cetera. I'd have to honestly probably spend more time on this. What I'd like to see is to, just have an up or down vote on number 8. And then maybe we take a look at this and see if it's something that we want to address. Again, I think we can have both, which is, this comes before us and we investigate it, do the proper research, et cetera, on it without, jumping into it right now. And then we deal with number 8 if number 8 fails. I mean, number 8 passed last time, so there you go. But just my thoughts. Thank you.
Let me ask this question here to either Ms. Post or Ms. Grimes, and what I haven't got an answer. I want to know, why is it that the county was able to do what they did with development and were able to carve out a section, but yet we haven't heard that we could do that? Can someone explain that to me?
I'm happy to. The reason is they had the data to support localizing the moratorium in a certain area. What was demonstrated to you on April 1st is that use of the FAR to exceed the comp plan densities is a citywide problem. So we don't have the data to support implementing a comp plan amendment and a moratorium in just one section of the city when you have a citywide problem.
Okay. So we go back to data again.
Chair Goods.
Yes, Member Post.
Carol Post, just to reiterate one point that may be relevant is that the first step of the Planning Commission process actually begins May 25th, right around the corner. That is the first stakeholder meeting on the plan amendment. So it would be an opportune time to begin this discussion in concert with the plan amendment process.
So I know we have a motion on the floor, but I want to make sure I have this correct. If we go with this up or down vote, gentlemen, and it's voted down, are we saying that we then will look at Mr. Dingfeller's idea to send to legal in reference to this maybe a possible different ordinance?
I know.
That's what I was kind of hearing. Is that what we're saying, Mr. Vieira? I mean,
Do we do his motion first?
well, just,
Procedurally,
yeah.
procedurally, Mr. Shelby should probably speak to it, but I think that I have a motion and second on the floor that takes preeminence over item 8 as it stands, and frankly, that would be my preference, because it's a substitute for item 8. So why don't we make item 8 better? And that's what I'm trying to do.
Any more discussion before I go for a vote?
I'm not an attorney, I'm a street guy, but I don't think you can tie this into item 8 and say it's the same thing because it doesn't have the same context as item 8 on this agenda says. And I'm not an attorney. I don't plan to be one either.
Ms. Shelby?
So what's on this agenda reads differently than what was the substitute motion or the new substitute motions coming on. So you can't say it's item number 8.
Well, can I clarify that, Ms. Miranda?
Yes, sir.
I agree with you. It would be, when staff takes this and massages it and incorporates this policy, this land use policy, okay, and the exceptions that I'm talking about, and comes back 2 weeks from now, it will be a modified item 8. It will be a modified item 8. As it is today, no, item 8 doesn't speak to these items because these items didn't come up until I brought them up. But that's why we're going to, in my motion, the intent of my motion is to give legal staff 2 weeks to come back to us and give us, and it's really not a big modification. I mean, it's really inserting 2 paragraphs. So, you know, so that's the intent of my motion. I'd really like to get a vote on my motion, and so we can just move on.
Mr. Shelby, I saw your hand. You recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what you have is a motion to continue with specific direction to staff. Ultimately, the motion to continue will be either voted up or down. A motion to continue would be in order. And then what will happen is if the motion does fail, then the motion, a motion on first reading, if that, or a motion to not go to first reading would then be in order. It's up to council. So my suggestion would be to take the motion that's on the floor with the second before you move on. But both Councilman Miranda and Councilman Dingfelder, I believe, are both correct.
There's a motion on the floor, Mr. Dingfelder. It was second, Mr. Carlson. Ms. Grimes, you saw your hand real quick?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just am still not clear on what it is, what direction you're trying to give staff. You talked about the transit emphasis corridors being excluded, but is Del Mabry excluded? Is parts of New Tampa excluded? Some council members want them included, some want them excluded.
Let me clarify.
It's really not.
Let me clarify.
I'm just.
I'm sorry, but let me clarify, Gina. You had got a copy of this from Mr. Garrett this morning, and I'm sorry if you don't have it in front of you. I apologize. Okay, but this document specifically, Land Use Policy 5.1.9, which is in front of all council members, identifies about a dozen major roads that our land use policy in our comp plans describes as transit emphasis corridors. What I'm saying is, instead of this very comprehensive broad brush approach that is in front of us on item 8 in regard to the ordinance that's pending, I'm trying to carve out a huge amount of the city that the so-called moratorium would not apply to. So we're shrinking down item 8 tremendously to exclude all of these dozen road corridors that are identified in 5.1.9 and any property that's within a quarter-mile walking distance from those corridors. So I'm doing exactly what all those land use attorneys asked for, okay? And frankly, I think it will help the South of Gandy folks too, because there's a lot of property down there that is not within a quarter mile of Gandy and not within a quarter mile walking of Del Mabry. And those would be the properties that would be affected by this ordinance. And I'm not saying it's perfect, and nothing's perfect, but at least we've responded to the community and we're trying to do something in the short term while staff is trying to do something in the long term. And that's the intent of my motion.
So,
I guess what I'm confused about is that's different than the comp plan amendment that's already been advanced to the planning commission.
Right, and
So
we'll modify,
the moratorium is different than the comp plan amendment. I don't
Yes.
know if that, I can reconcile that.
right, and we would modify our motion to the comp plan, to the planning commission accordingly, if this passes.
I think that's been the whole, I think, uncertainty with the moratorium is that you have a comp plan amendment that's going to go through a process and changes to it are likely going to be made. And so that's why a lot of individuals are objecting to the moratorium, because the moratorium is different than what will ultimately be adopted. And that's that is the downside to adopting a moratorium before the ordinance, the comp plan amendment, has gone through the process and has been modified and adjusted to meet everybody's concerns. So you're imposing an ordinance right now, a moratorium on development that may ultimately be permitted under the comp plan amendment that's eventually adopted.
But that's what item 8 would have done. I'm just shrinking it down tremendously. I'm shrinking the impact of item 8 tremendously, massively, okay, by exempting these corridors. And Mr. Chairman, I agree with you. I think we should let's just get a vote and be done with it. If it passes, then we direct legal staff to do it, and if it doesn't, let's move on.
Mr. Moreno, you recognize.
Thank you. And this is my last conversation on this item. I'm not against what Mr. Dingfelder has brought up, but I want to be as legally correct 110% as possible. We're talking about something that's the same, but it's different in the approach. It's the same text with a different approach to the conversation to settle both sides, this side and the right or left or right, so they can come to a conclusion. However, when you ask the legal department to come back with a new ordinance within 2 weeks, that means we workshop everything here. If somebody got a cold, we call for a workshop. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that the legal department understands that I'm correctly 110%, so later on we don't get bit and we say, oh, I didn't know this was happening. To make sure that what Mr. Dinkfelder brought in, and it's not a bad idea, it's a great idea, that is legally satisfied. When you have something in 2 weeks come back without a workshop, the public usually doesn't have the right to speak on the first hearing of the consideration. So they're going to have one time when it comes back 2 weeks later. So what we're saying is we're going to do something, and somewhere along the line, both sides are going to criticize us now for not having a proper time and a proper theater to brush out these things and work them out. I'm not against what Mr. Dingfelder said, but I want to make sure that we're 1,000% correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't think we're ever going to be 1,000% correct. The legend, I don't think we're 1,000, but I think that, again, I say we're not going to make everybody happy. We may come close. But in my mind, what I'm hearing, when I look at the document Mr. Dingfelder has submitted, he has valid points. Again, you say legally, we got to get the facts to make sure we can do what we need to do to make it legal or make it work. Right now, we're in a situation, we're up or down, or do we say we send it all back and try to see if they can, see if it's legally working, can work, and bring the ordinance back and have a workshop or have whatever hearing to see if the public is going to go for it or not, the developers go for it or not. But at the end of the day, somebody still ain't going to be happy, and we got to make a vote. Period. Mr. Carls?
I'm just going to make my final comment on this topic. Mr. Dingfelder, you, I think, used the right term earlier. Unfortunately, we can't talk outside of this room because of sunshine. We asked for, based on the demands of the South of Gandy folks, we asked for a South of Gandy solution that specifically addressed a certain problem, and we've got a solution now that is a poison pill. And the developers are mad that people south of Gandy are not happy. They're just going along with it. The question here is whether we implement it now or we wait. Everybody knows that during that process, and I believe in public input and public process, but in that process, people who are armed well and have lots of money are going to influence that process more than the average citizen, and we'll see where that ends up. I think it'll be very different than what we have now. What I predict, listening to the language of everyone this morning and looking at around the room, I think that this motion that you just made is going to fail. I think that the motion for number 8 is going to fail, and so I would just like to preemptively say to the citizens south of Gandy, we as a city council, I think unanimously asked for a solution south of Gandy. What we have in front of us is something that the broader community, people in other parts of the community, individual landowners and developers don't like, and they don't think it's fair that it affects them instead of just south of Gandy. And because of all the problems that are put into this proposal, we probably don't have the votes to get anything passed. And so I don't like it. I've been in favor of density and development my whole life. I don't like this proposal, but my constituents have asked me to vote for it, and so I was elected to represent them, and I'm going to vote the way they've asked me to vote. But if this fails, if number 8 fails, which I think it will, I would ask staff, especially in the meeting with the mayor this coming week, to please think of a solution and come back, because starting this afternoon, we're going to get thousands more emails, and it's not going to stop for the next few months. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I clarify my motion?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Let me clarify my motion. My motion doesn't commit you to voting yes on first reading. My motion, Mr. Miranda specifically, my motion says let's direct staff to incorporate this land use policy that I've spoken to 10 times now, incorporate it into the ordinance, and bring it back for first reading in 2 weeks. At that point in time, we'll get plenty of input. We'll get plenty of staff input. We'll get plenty of legal input. If legal says we're totally off base, I'm sure they won't be shy in telling us. Okay? But that's what my motion is. So just a vote today to say, Dingfelder, maybe that's not a bad approach. Let's look at it in 2 weeks, and I can assure you it's not a huge amount of work. Okay, it's plugging in a couple extra paragraphs to what we already have. So that would be my request. And 2 weeks from now, if we don't like it, we can vote it down.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Randy Gorge, yes, sir. You're recognized.
Yeah, Randy Gorge, City Planning Department. Just to shed some light, the addition of moving the ordinance around the primary transit corridors, especially down in Gandy and Del Mabry, is counter to what we've been hearing throughout the process in terms of where growth should go and where it shouldn't go. I mean, and you can go back to all the workshops that we've heard back to August, and also the community concerns about where development is going to locate along Gandy and then Del Mabry, and the discussion of hurricane times and so forth. So that the direction of incorporating around the transit corridors does bring us, I think, counter to what we've been discussing all along, even though it helps to narrow the scope of the interim development agreement. I think, and it's just coming from my professional planning experience, is that the direction that council gave a few weeks ago to process a plan amendment is the proper place to handle those kind of discussions. It will give the community, it gives the staff, it'll give you as city council the opportunity to really look at the application of development in the context of the comprehensive plan and long-range planning. It also will provide one of the things that we have been missing throughout this whole process, and that is a place for the entire community to come in all of the public hearings and reach a consensus. What we have experienced is every time we have a public hearing on the ordinance is a new suggestion comes up because of a special interest that has emerged. And although I can't predict the future, if you look at the past, 2 weeks from now, we may come back with another option to take a look at. So I do want to caution, or at least raise the issue that building the ordinance around the primary transit corridors, especially along Gandy and Del Mabry, sets us on a direction that was different than what we envisioned. And so I just want to raise that. And I do believe that the planning process that has been put in place which you initiated. I think is the proper place to handle that.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Randy, with all due respect, and I love you for 20-something years, Mr. Carlson and myself and maybe some other council members, I talk to these people south of Gandy like at least once a week about this issue, including yesterday. So I'm very, very aware of their sensitivities and their desires and that sort of thing. If I thought this was 100% counter to what they want, then I wouldn't be proposing it. Okay, I took a very close look at the map that was up on our screen earlier that Mr. Randy Cohen put up on there, okay, and specifically looked at it SOG, all right? And yes, there's a few opportunities along Gandy Boulevard, and there's few opportunities, along Southdale Mabry, that still might come into play. And we can deal with those when they come into us for rezoning. But the one thing that staff is not proposing is their staff, with all due respect, everybody from legal through Ms. Post all the way down, staff is not offering any short-term solution to stop these rezonings from coming in at using the FAR in these big, intensive apartment complexes. And I know I sound a little upset about it. My wife always warns me not to sound upset. But staff has not been offering any short-term solution. The only solution, Mr. Gowers, you proposed when we talked about this a month ago was you said, yeah, we're going to do this in a year and we're going to do this in 18 months. And with all due respect, that's the world that you operate in. But these citizens who are writing to us, that's not the world they operate in. The world they operate in are that these rezonings are coming to us week after week after week, and we need a short-term solution. And that's what this interim thing, as proposed to be modified by me today, will provide. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just looking for the opportunity to throw this together in 2 weeks and come back for first reading. The commitment today from you is not
Listen,
a permanent.
I'm going to give you a chance to
No. Let it go, because the sooner we vote on it, I'm glad that, Mr. Chair, please, thank you. I'm glad that Mr. Goers had his chance to chime in, and this study is going to give us a heck of a lot more reasons to figure out where, who, how, and what we can do, and give us the legal basis in which we can do it. I agree. We have all heard from south of Gandy people. And as far as Ms. Pryor is concerned, I'm her favorite councilman, unless other councilmen have gotten little post-it notes on their memos too.
You are?
However, taking a short-term resolve to this is like stepping on a shoelace. We might trip over ourselves after we hear from Randy Goers and may have to change things around again. I would feel more comfortable hearing what we have with this study and then moving forward from there. I'm finished, Mr. Chair. Let's go to a vote.
Motion on the floor. Mr. Dingfelder, second by Mr. Carlson. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco?
No.
Carlson?
Yes.
Citro?
No.
Miranda?
No.
Vieira?
No.
Goods?
Yes.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Motion failed with Vieira, Maniscalco, Citro, and Miranda voting no.
And Mr. Chair, may I say something? Just 10
You're recognized,
seconds?
Mr. Rivera.
I really, and I know we're going over time. Again, I saw this as something which would, in effect, continue number 8. This is something that could come back to us in a couple weeks, in effect, doing what Councilman Dingfelder wanted. I just think that we probably need to look into it a little bit more, having just gotten it today and with some of the concerns that I said. But again, this is something that could come back and just be splendid. But so, that may not be done with. Thank you.
Mr. Dingfelder, are you looking to put a motion on for that now for later review, or you want to look at that at new business, or we need to move on?
I don't know. Council just voted no. I mean, Mr. Maniscalco, I don't know if you had any particular druthers that you'd rather see this go. If you want to see it studied and come back in a month, and then your vote might make the difference. But I don't know.
I've listened to Councilman Miranda, Councilman Citro, Mr. Goers, and others. I think we should wait Just to be safe, I don't want to make any mistake. I understand we're just getting information and coming back in 2 weeks, but is this the absolute right thing to do? I'd rather be, I know people have been patient, but, you know, I want to see all the data and all the facts before anything.
And the studies we're talking about are a year from now.
I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
All right. I'm good with that.
All right, gentlemen, this is going on after 12:30.
Go on, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead,
just wanna
I give
explain
deference.
that
Go ahead,
I
Mr.
feel the same way. I'm not against anyone south of Tampa, south of Gandy, south of Kennedy, south of Georgia. But I want to make sure that what we do is 110% correct, or whether we wait a little longer and get it done so that there's no ramification that the legal department gives us something that's 110% proof that what we've done is correct. And that's all. I'm not against Mr. Dinkfelder. I'm not against anyone. I just want to make sure that this is done correctly, and I'm not for anyone. I just want to get it done right. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, what's the pleasure of council?
Do we vote on number 8 now, or, I mean?
You want to do it after lunch, or you want to?
Do we want to do our agenda items now, get those done and out of the way?
Why can't we?
Excuse me, our committee reports. I'm sorry, our committee reports.
Well, it's already 12:30.
It's already after 12:30, Citro.
Well.
What's the pleasure of council? All right.
All right.
All right. All right. We're in recess till 1:30.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your indulgence on my.
Council, just.
Lord, and come back home to stay. My baby don't stand no cheating, my baby. Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating, my baby. Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that midnight creeping, my baby. True little baby, my baby. My baby, I know